We do not know what to do. Posted December 21st, 2021. This is an Am I the Asshole post as well as an asking for advice one. Sorry for the long text, but please read the whole thing as there are many important details in it that I could not fit into the too long, didn't read. My husband, Robert, 59 years old. My husband and I pushed our autistic son to suicide through years of mistreatment, leading to his death and causing our family to unravel. Our son committed suicide today, and our other children blame us. We do not know what to do. Posted December 21st, 2021. This is an Am I the Asshole post as well as an asking for advice one. Sorry for the long text, but please read the whole thing as there are many important details in it that I could not fit into the too long, didn't read. My husband, Robert, 59 years old, and I, Samantha, 50 years old, have had 3 children. James, 27 years old, Kate, 23 years old, and Stephen, 20 years old. When he was 6, Stephen was diagnosed with autism, and we did everything to accommodate him and get help. He kept telling us that he did not want any help and wanted to be treated like a normal person. We always tried to reassure him that he needed it to achieve the same results as other kids, and he should accept himself and be proud, and not listen to society or other people. By the way, everyone was always super accepting and did their best to accommodate, but Stephen would not listen and said that he was as competent as other people and was before he got diagnosed, and we started treating him like a subhuman too. Whenever someone would try to help him, he immediately started to explain that he did not want or need any help and came up with excuses. As he grew older, Stephen distanced himself from other people because he did not want anyone to know him as an autistic person. He even asked us to let him change schools and not tell anyone at the new school about his condition, which we, of course, did not allow. By the time he was in his early teens, he fell into a really bad depression and became suicidal but refused to take medication or go to therapy to treat it because, at that point, he would not accept any help from anyone at all, even if it was not for his autism. Stephen claimed that the cause of his depression was the special treatment everyone gave him, and he just wanted to live as a normal person. He tried to make a compromise that if we let him go to a different school where no one knew about his autism and stopped treating him differently, he would get treatment for his depression. By then, James, Kate, and a few of Stephen's teachers were encouraging us to let him do it, but we still said no. When Stephen was 15, he attempted to kill himself by hanging. At 18, he finished school, got accepted into his dream university, moved out, and cut off contact with my husband and me. He still kept talking to his siblings. He left us an angry goodbye letter in which he claimed that we ruined 12 years of his life, that we were the reason why he was still depressed and suicidal, and that he hated us with a passion. He said that now he would finally not be known as a crazy, stupid, and awkward person who needs help for everything, and could lead a normal life. We tried to call him and sent him letters and emails, but he did not answer. Recently, we visited him at his university, but he would not talk to us and eventually threatened to get a restraining order, after which we immediately left. We have not heard much about him since then, but from what his siblings told us, he was doing better now, although he still suffered from depression. Anyway, today he committed suicide. From what we know, he overdosed on medication. Kate, who told us the sad news, says that we should not have given Stephen any special treatment or at least stopped when he told us to, and that by treating him differently, we basically drove him into suicide. She said that we have failed as parents, and she will consider cutting contact with us too because she does not want people like us as parents. James agreed with her and said that we should at least acknowledge our mistake. Kate packed her stuff and left shortly after. She originally planned to stay for New Year's too, saying that if we want to keep a relationship with her, we should admit what we did wrong and learn from it. We, however, think that it is the fault of society with its standards and expectations, and Stephen's own fault because he would not accept any help. We are absolutely devastated. Is Stephen's suicide really our fault, and what can we do to save what is left of our family? Too long, didn't read. Our son was diagnosed with autism as a child. We got all the help we could, but he did not want it. In his teens he became depressed and suicidal. He cut contact with us when he moved out. Today we found out he killed himself, and our children say that it is our fault. Our daughter threatens to cut contact as well. Are we really to blame for his death, and what should we do? Top comments. First of all, we, however, think that it is the fault of society with its standards and expectations, and Stephen's own fault because he would not accept any help. Jesus Christ, how deep in denial can you get? Clearly it was your fault. In the end, it was his choice to do, but I would argue a significant percentage of it, at least 80%, was due to your horrible parenting. I mean, his siblings, the people closest to him, believe it was your fault. You need to go posting, asking people on Reddit for their opinion. All you will ever get here is nice, friendly echo chambers of what you want to hear by socially inept losers. I will likely get banned for telling the truth here, but yes, it was your fault. Furthermore, I would not say it is your fault, but he did continuously tell you what made him want to kill himself, and no one listened. I know exactly how that feels, and I'm at a point now where I have to lay in bed all day to not kill myself when the urge arises. I barely have any control left. My condolences to you and your family. I hope you guys are able to come together and support one another at some point. Additionally, in reply to the second comment, hey, I just came through something like this. And I swear, it will get better. You will not feel like this forever. Are you seeing a therapist? Check BetterHelp or an online therapist for an appointment. Do you have Teladoc? I use this to get on meds, and now I can say, without any big lifestyle changes, I mean, aside from medication, exercising sort of regularly, and eating a bit healthier, I am happy sometimes. Can you go for a walk in a park? This is something that helps a tiny bit, which is better than nothing. Please do not do it. Lastly, I am sorry for your loss. This must be a very difficult time for you. I am not in the business of telling people that it was their fault a person killed themselves. However, if you want any relationship with your remaining children, it sounds like you will need to recognize that you undermined your child's autonomy and disrespected his mental health needs for most of his life. It is clear even from your telling that that had a profound negative impact on his mental health. Your other children are grieving, and they have every reason to be angry with you. It sounds like they championed their brother the whole way. To be honest, your whole post reads as very ableist. You never allowed your son a voice in his life. You never listened to him when he consistently called out for saying he felt disrespected and othered. It might be helpful to reread your own words with that in mind. Tomorrow would have been the 21st birthday of our son who took his life almost a year ago. Posted November 28, 2022. Tomorrow would have been the 21st birthday of our son Stephen, who took his life almost a year ago. At the age of 6, Stephen was diagnosed with autism, and we did everything we could to get help and accommodations for him. Everyone was super accepting and did their best to accommodate, and we always told him to be proud and not care about social norms. However, Stephen still refused to accept any help and demanded that we stop treating him like a subhuman. No matter how many times we told our son that he needed help to get on the same level as other children, he would not accept it. As he was approaching his teens, Stephen gradually isolated himself from the world. He had no friends, no hobbies, and avoided spending time with us, although he did not mind spending it with his siblings. He avoided other kids at school, and as soon as he got home, he would lock himself up in his room and only go out when absolutely necessary. When he was 10, he also began to refuse to celebrate his birthday because it reminded him that yet another year has gone by and everything is still just as bad. Stephen ended up getting depression and suicidal thoughts and blamed it on the special treatment we gave him. We tried to get Stephen therapy and antidepressants, but he refused because at that point, he was not accepting any help at all, even for things that had nothing to do with his autism. When he was 15, he tried to kill himself by hanging, but luckily, he survived. Stephen tried to make a deal that if we let him go to a different school where no one knew that he was autistic, he would accept treatment for his depression. Even a few of his teachers, as well as his siblings, told us to let him do that, but we did not allow it because we did not think that he would get through school without help. Right after graduating school, at the age of 18, our son got accepted into his dream university, the University of Oxford, and moved out. We did not even know that he had applied to university and only found out from the goodbye letter he left. It was a very angry and hateful letter. He said that we ruined 12 years of his life and went on a rant about how much he hated us. He cut off all contact with us but kept talking to James and Kate and blocked us everywhere. We tried to contact Stephen from other numbers and emails and sent him letters, but he never answered. According to our other children, he was studying chemistry and biology. He had always expressed an interest in those and science in general growing up, and in his last years with us, he also said that he wanted to get a PhD and become either a pharmacologist or an organic chemist, although we thought that would be too hard for him. He had even made some friends. My husband Robert and I visited him at university at the beginning of last November. But he would not talk to us and even said that he would get a restraining order against us if we did not leave him alone. About a month after that, he attempted suicide again, this time by overdosing on medication, and unfortunately, he succeeded. Kate blamed us for his death, saying that he repeatedly told us how much he did not want to be treated differently, but we never listened. She has since also cut off contact because she could not and did not want to forgive us for killing her brother. Our other son James has also been visiting and talking to us much less since then. In just a couple of months, we have lost pretty much all of our children. We have tried to distract ourselves, but with Stephen's birthday coming up, we can only think of him and our other children, even if they have abandoned us and he did not like to celebrate his birthday. Relevant comments. First of all, I am so very sorry for your losses. The pain from losing your child to suicide never relents. You can learn to distract yourself, but the pain is always with you. I hope you and your husband get through the day by supporting each other, knowing that you did what you thought was best, and find ways to distract ourselves again after the day has passed. Furthermore, parents do not lose all 3 of their kids over nothing. Trust the kids always, even when they are grown adults. Bad kids do not cut off their parents, they take advantage of them. Also, going no contact hurts too. We have a love-hate relationship with abusive parents. Psychological abuse is brainwashing. So keep in mind that kids going no contact are also in a great deal of pain, but the pain is made worse by being around their parents who do not take even an ounce of accountability. If they do not take account, the abuse continues, and at some point, self-preservation is only possible by cutting off contact. Psychological abuse makes you have no self-worth. You feel like nothing from your parents and without your parents. If you read this from that perspective, maybe you will see otherwise. We thought that would be too hard for him, is a snide comment to say about your now deceased son. So just imagine what they might have said to his face behind closed doors. They did not even mention being proud of the fact that he did so after they said it. Moreover, I usually just lurk, but I felt I had to make an account to say this because everyone else seems afraid to address the elephant in the room. How you treated your son was not okay. Your son, time and time again, did not want to be treated the way you and your husband treated him. He made it very clear he did not want to see you or your husband again. I have gone through a similar experience where I was the one chasing after someone as well, and it was very wrong for me to do so. I know it sucks that your son wanted you to be completely out of his life, but you have to respect his decision. You were not able to respect this, and from what I have read, it looked like it contributed to his degrading mental health. I do not know the rules of this subreddit, but I do not think it is constructive to reinforce this type of behavior. Others in this thread are hesitant to criticize and some are being supportive, which is not healthy. It is important to criticize where criticism is needed. You are allowed to grieve the loss of your son despite this. I am in no way downplaying the pain you and your husband are going through with the loss of your son. His passing was his decision at the end of the day, but you have to understand that you and your husband were not good parents to him. This is fully based on what you have typed, and I can only judge based on that. Lastly, I lost my sister to suicide 1 week ago. She was 15, and I had basically raised her. I feel your pain, and I am so sorry for your loss. Reply to the last one. If you need help with some resources, you can message me. I have lost 2 people this way. I just want you to know you are not alone. How do we get our daughter to talk to us again? Posted December 12, 2022. We miss him so much. Our daughter, Kate, 24 years old, completely stopped talking to us about 10 months ago. She did this because, according to her, we are to blame for her younger brother's, 21 years old, suicide, which happened about 1.5 months prior to Kate cutting off contact with us. However, at the time of his suicide, he had already been no contact with us for over a year. He left for university, stopped talking to us, and blocked us everywhere immediately after graduation. We did not even know he had applied for university, with the exception of one time when we visited him at university, and even then, he did not talk to us. Kate's other brother, James, 27 years old, still regularly talks to her, and we have tried to get him to encourage her to talk to us again. However, he refuses because he thinks that Kate does not have to talk to us if she does not want to, and he also believes that our youngest son killed himself because of us, even though it does not make any sense. She does not talk to any of her other relatives. We have reached out to her on social media, but she did not answer. Although we knew where she lived until recently, we visited but she was never home. According to her brother, she moved to New York City this September because she enrolled in a PhD program at some university there, so we do not even know where she lives now. What can we do to get Kate to talk to us again? Relevant comments. First of all, I am sure this hurts, but I think you need to do some self-reflection. Your son stopped talking to you and later committed suicide. Why do you think he stopped talking to you? Only you can answer that question. Now you have a daughter that will not talk to you either. She blames you for his suicide. You keep saying it is not your fault because he had already cut you off, but again, why? If she ever talks to you again, and there is something for you to apologize for, you may want to start thinking about it now. Based on the very little I know, I am guessing something in your parenting over the years was lacking. Furthermore, I am sure you are heartbroken. I cannot imagine the anguish you're feeling, losing a child to suicide and the other children separating from you by choice. Something needs to be addressed and acknowledged within the family history. Until then, there is no healing. I hope you can go into counseling for your family's sake, if not for your own. Moreover, leave her alone and respect her agency. That is what you can do. You have a child who went no contact and killed himself. You have another child who is no contact and a third child whose boundaries you constantly challenge to get your way. Stop it. You are lucky your son talks to you, and if you keep it up, you will lose him too. You are not entitled to a relationship with your children. You do not get to make these demands. You can go to therapy, work on yourselves, and try to figure out how to live a better life. Every time you push the boundary with your son or try to contact your daughter, you prove you are exactly who they think you are. Selfish people who care more about your own desires than what is best for your kids. What you can do is stop harassing your daughter. Additionally, if two of your kids have both decided to cut you off, it may be time to think about what you could have done better in the past. There must be a reason for them to stop talking to you, right? Especially if they have just become adults and started living on their own, there might be a point where they realize that life could be better without you for some reason. Not to say you can be blamed for anything, but it might help to think about it and maybe apologize for anything that comes to mind which might have made your son cut you off in the first place. Lastly, I am so sorry for your loss. All you can do is give your remaining children space to follow their consciences while you always leave the door open for them to make contact one day. Or not. Please go to counseling too. In reply to the fifth comment, I resonate with this comment deeply. However, the parents need to go to therapy, hopefully if they can afford it. There is a huge chunk of self-awareness and trauma they need to work through. Also, understand that their kids are adults. Their relationship has changed, and the parents must respect this new aspect of the adult-parent and adult-child relationship. My husband's drinking problem is getting out of control. What can I do? Posted December 18, 2022. I am a 51-year-old woman, and my husband Robert, who is 60 years old, has had a drinking problem for somewhat over 2 years now. He usually drinks vodka and occasionally wine and has 5 shots of vodka on weekdays and sometimes up to a whole bottle on weekends. When he drinks wine, it is even more, and he will sometimes have an entire bottle during the week. When he is drunk, he is extremely angry, and although he does not get physically aggressive, he screams and yells a lot. I basically do not get any real time with him, with the exception of a few occasional hours on a weekend, because he gets drunk as soon as he gets home on workdays and often starts drinking by around noon on weekends as well. His drinking problem comes in waves. With my help, he has managed to get it under control multiple times, and although he would still drink almost every day, it was usually nowhere near enough to get him drunk. However, it always gets worse again. He only began intensively drinking about 2 years ago when our youngest son applied to university without us knowing and then cut us off when he went off to said university. My husband felt very angry and betrayed, and he still does, and that is when he resorted to alcohol. Before that, he would only drink on special occasions like holidays, parties, and date nights, and even then, he almost never had enough to get drunk. I feel like I have lost him since his drinking problem began, at least during the waves when it is really bad, because he is drunk most of the time and then all he does is just scream around. What can we do to end his drinking problem? Relevant comments. First of all, the problem with any addiction, whether it is alcohol, drugs, gambling, sex, gaming, etc., is that it is the addict's problem. They are the ones who have to want to fix themselves. Nothing you say or do will change that. Get some therapy for yourself. This is an extremely dysfunctional and toxic cycle, which is something you can work on. I wish you the best. Moreover, I was married to an alcoholic for 14 years. I went to Al-Anon twice and was told there was nothing I could do to change him. If he wanted to change, he would. The only person I had the power to change was myself, including my kids. It took a year or more, but I started making the life I wanted. I begged him to come along, and he chose the booze. I moved on, and he was dead within 3 years. In reply to the second comment, 2 of our 3 kids have cut off contact with us for reasons unrelated to the drinking problem. One of them, the one mentioned in the post, eventually committed suicide. The one that still talks to us only does so rarely, around twice a month. I cannot afford to lose my husband too emotionally. As I already said, our son cut us off, which caused my husband's drinking problem, and eventually killed himself. Our other children blame us for his suicide, and then our daughter did as well. I only have our son, and he only talks to us maybe twice a month, and my husband left. Furthermore, there is no we in quitting drinking. If he does not want to stop drinking himself, there is no way you can make him do it. Unfortunately, that is how it works. You have to want to help yourself first, and you actually have to help yourself first. Nobody else can do it for you or tell you how to do it. You personally have to accept that you're an alcoholic and go forward with that. Good luck, I hope it works out. In reply to the third comment, I cannot afford to lose him too. 2 of our children have cut us off. One of them, the one mentioned in the post, committed suicide, and our oldest, who fortunately still talks to us, only does so rarely, maybe 2 times a month. If I leave him, I would have pretty much none of my family left. Replying again to the third comment, I am sorry, but you have already lost him. At this point, all you are doing is enabling him. There is a very thin line between helping an alcoholic and enabling them, and you have crossed it. I can understand why you do not want to leave him and why you think that sticking around is actually helping, but it is not. My mother did the same to my father, and she ended up losing all of her children due to her codependency and insistence on protecting, enabling, and defending her husband. I would advise that you get some therapy, either from a therapist that specializes in addiction and grief or Al-Anon. You two are trauma bonded at this point and are stuck in a very dysfunctional and toxic cycle. Additionally, your husband started drinking because you and he treated your son like he was the village idiot because he had autism, and clearly, he was highly intelligent. You both did not know anything about your son, and when he left to go to Oxford, which you mentioned in a previous post, it was probably a wake-up call for him about how much you damaged your relationship with your son. He has regrets, and you have willful ignorance. Lastly, you are a terrible person. Your husband is angry at his son's betrayal. You betrayed your son his whole life. He is angry at his son and still is, but he is not sad his son died. No, he is angry that his son betrayed him, and you only care about getting him to stop drinking for your personal time. Everything that is happening now is karma for driving your son to kill himself. There is blood on your hands, yet you are too cold, proud and uncaring to admit that. Your post about his death rings so hollow. I feel sorry for all those related to you and your husband. Am I the A to ask my husband to block his female friend who warned him not to marry me? She has no right to interfere in our wedding. I, 26 female, want my husband, 27 male, to immediately block one of his friends Kyla, 27 female. He thinks I am overreacting, and wants opinions from some cool-headed people on if I'm just acting crazy, or this is something that would cross the line for you. My husband has a group of 8 friends he has been close with since his college days. Kyla is one of his friends. When my husband and I started dating, he introduced me to all of them, and everyone was very friendly. I used to hang out with them frequently. I am an introvert, and so is my husband. I would always ask him to spend time alone as being in social settings just saps all my energy away. His friends, and especially Kyla, always made it a point to tell me how he hangs out with them less after he started dating me. Kyla also had a weird energy around me. If I was with my husband, she would be the friendliest with me. However, as soon as he walked away, she acted like I did not exist. My husband hates to be touched by others, we both are neurodivergent, but Kyla would always tease him by trying to hug him, mess his hair, etc. I never felt she was flirting with him, but just teasing him to make him annoyed. Overall, she just feels like a person who has a severe social boundary issue. We got married 2 years ago, and things have been great between us. Last week, we had our second marriage anniversary and invited a bunch of people. His friends stayed back after all the guests left, and we were all drinking and chatting. One of his friends, Jen, became a bit tipsy and started complimenting me on how beautiful our house is, how I care for my husband, and how he has changed for the better since marriage. Everyone was laughing at my husband at how much of a slob he was when he was single. Jen then pointed at Kyla and said, "You better pay up, cause you had bet that their marriage would not even last for 2 years." Everyone became silent and started changing the topic. I also did not want to spoil the mood, and let it go, but it stuck in my head. After everyone left, I asked my husband what Jen was talking about. He also had noticed Jen saying that and was ready with a full explanation. He told me the story of what happened when we got engaged. When he proposed to me, he had not told his friends that he was going to do that. We went on a trip to Puerto Rico, and he surprised me there. We put our engagement pictures on Instagram while we were on the trip, and it was a big surprise to everyone as we were only dating for 1 year. When he came back and met all his friends, everyone congratulated him. However, Kyla started ranting about how he was a fool to propose so quickly, and she felt that I was not the right girl for him. Seems like she said some unkind things about me, implying I was a gold digger. My husband's family is wealthy, but so is mine. She had said that she bet we would break up within 2 years if we got married. That is why Jen was taunting her about how happy my husband was with me. I was very furious at this point, as I feel this is something he should have told me. I asked him to tell me truthfully if he had ever dated Kyla or had any history with her, as he has always told me that he has never dated anyone from his friend group. He said that he has of course not dated or hooked up with Kyla. However, Kyla had asked him out a few times when they were in college, and he always politely declined. I asked why he said no to her, and he said he just does not have any romantic feelings for her. I can see that because my husband does have a type based on me or the other people he has dated in the past, and Kyla is the opposite of that. I am just mad at her for saying bad things about me, especially after knowing that we were already engaged and betting against my marriage. I told my husband that he needs to minimize contact with Kyla and she is not invited to parties at our house anymore. He feels I am being too harsh for something she said almost 3 years ago. He also pointed out that she has been very supportive to both of us, and also helped a lot during our wedding arrangements. He feels she is just blunt and forthright when she speaks, but does not mean those things. He told me to take some time and calm down, and we would revisit this topic in a week. He is worried this will completely change the dynamics within his friend group. Am I the A for wanting him to block her and stop inviting her to our house? Do you think I'm overreacting? I think betting against our marriage and bad-mouthing me behind my back seems like a huge betrayal. I am also mad at my husband that he kept this fact from me, and also never told me that Kyla asked him out during college days. Am I just being crazy and reactive? How would you react in this situation? I don't want to distance my husband from his friends, but I also do not want to see that bitch Kyla's face again. Relevant comments. Commenter. Info. How has Kyla acted since the wedding? Has her behavior changed? You describe a bad behavior in the past tense, so one might believe she's not doing those things anymore. Does she still exhibit boundary issues with your husband? OP. Yes, her behavior with my husband has not changed at all after marriage. However, she is the same with all other friends too. With me, she is fake nice, where she acts like we are best friends in front of my husband, and barely talks to me when he is not around. Commenter. What did he think when you told him that she's totally different when he leaves? OP. He just says she does not know you that well, just ignore her. She has never said anything negative to my face. However, as a girl, you just know when someone does not like you. It's hard to explain to him that it's your feeling and not based on anything she has specifically said or done. Commenter. On blocking her. Especially with the physical contact too. She's so clearly into the husband, and the fact that he's not shutting it down means he likes the extra attention from her. It's one thing to get a friendly hug or maybe an occasional touch on the shoulder from a platonic friend, but shit like playing with his hair. That is 100% flirty behavior. And the fact that he's not shutting it down himself is gross. OP. I have to reply here. So my husband is physically allergic to people touching him. He has a startled response, either he jerks them away or tenses up when someone hugs him and his face turns red. The weird thing is he can hug his parents or sister and does not get the reaction. He never had that issue with me, even when we first started dating. However, even if my sister or parents hug him, he gets that response. So the fact that he shuts down any touch from Kyla is an understatement. Mini update in comments. Just remembered about my post and logged into the account after many months. Things were really horrible for the last few months and that bitch Kyla almost ruined my life. I don't even know how to describe it. I might write about it next week as I saw a lot of messages asking for an update. I just want other women to be careful of such snakes. Update post. I had posted almost 6 months ago regarding my husband's friend Kyla betting that our marriage would not last for more than 2 years. I was upset and had asked my husband to stop talking to her, because she disrespected our marriage. Since then, Kyla has pulled some really pathetic shit to stir up issues between my husband and I. After I wrote the post, my husband was trying to convince me that Kyla was just joking when she made those comments, and it happened so long ago. Kyla messaged me the next day apologizing for her comments and also not making more efforts to connect with me. I accepted her apology and started warming up to her. She started inviting me for brunches and girls' night out with them, and I felt included in their friend group. One day during brunch, I brought up why Kyla really thought our marriage would not work out. Kyla told me that my husband broke up with his long-term ex-girlfriend Joanna 2 months before he started dating me. I knew that part, but Kyla told me that my husband was really heartbroken after the breakup and swore to her that he would stay away from dating anyone. When he met me, my mom set us up on a blind date. She was surprised how quickly we hit it off. Kyla thought that I was his rebound relationship, but when he proposed to me within a year, she was worried that he was making a very rash decision. My husband's family is rich, and she thought it was unwise for him to marry so quickly without knowing me well. She did not know enough about me and that my family is also very well off. That is why she was concerned that I was taking advantage of his vulnerable state. She apologized to me and said that it was wrong for her to assume that, and over the years, she has seen how happy we are together. I appreciated her honesty, and Kyla and I became good friends since then and started hanging out more frequently. Around 2 months ago, my husband went to a conference in Seattle for 3 nights. After he came back, I got a "Hey girly" message on Instagram from Joanna, his ex. She told me that my husband contacted her a few months ago and they met in Seattle during the conference, and she could give me more proof if I wanted. I went through my husband's Instagram, but he seems to have blocked her. I made a mistake of mentioning it to Kyla, as she was the only person honest to me about Joanna, and she went into detective mode to help me. She was still friends with Joanna on Instagram, as they all went to college together, and opened her profile. The message sent to me was from a different profile, with no followers. We checked her photos, and we saw that she attended the same conference as my husband did in Seattle. Kyla suggested I should ask Joanna for more proof and also ask my husband about the same before assuming the worst. I asked my husband if he met Joanna, and he said yes. He told me he just met her in the expo hall and chatted with her for a few minutes. I asked him why he did not mention it to me, and he told me it was just a quick conversation, and he did not think too much of it. He asked me how I knew it, and I told him that Kyla mentioned that she saw her pictures at the conference, and I thought he might have seen her. I messaged Joanna again to share more proof. She told me that they have been chatting for the past 2 months and plan to attend the conference together. She shared a log of their messages, where my husband was actively flirting with her. The screenshots did look legit, but I did not see any of those messages in my husband's Instagram profile. I talked to Kyla about it, as I did not know what to believe. I messaged Joanna to tell us what happened between them, and she told me that he invited her to the room at nights and they hooked up, but she does not have any photos as he insisted. They do not take any pictures together. I immediately realized it was fake and messaged Joanna to fuck off. She kept on insisting they were telling the truth, and she spent the nights with my husband in his room on all 3 nights. I told her that my husband and I were playing video games, Sea of Thieves, for almost 2-3 hours each night after his dinner, as that is what we do to catch up when he is away. Unless Joanna was sitting behind him watching us play until he fell asleep, she was full of shit. I also told my husband about the whole incident and he told me I should have come to him sooner. He told me that he has gone no contact with Joanna ever since they broke up and he just ran into her at the conference. He told me I could check his phone and everything to verify that he has blocked her everywhere. I told him I do not need to, and Joanna might have run into him and just decided to fuck his life by making up stuff. When all the friends met that weekend, my husband and I told everyone about how Joanna sent messages to me and faked everything. Kyla was also telling what happened as she had told her about it. Kyla accidentally let it slip out that it's luckily, we are nerds and played video games at nights before sleeping, else, props go to Joanna for making up a convincing story. I never told Kyla about the video game stuff. I just told her Joanna is full of shit and I blocked her. It took me until I came home to connect the dots. I told my husband about it and he confronted Kyla. She denied it and told him that I told her about the video game stuff on a phone call, but I don't remember doing it. We have since decided to keep our distance from Kyla. Kyla has called me multiple times to meet up, but I just make up reasons that I'm busy. I do not know why she did it, but at this point, I am not interested in it, and we have decided to just see her on social occasions and avoid hanging out with her as much as possible. I feel stupid that she played me for a fool, and I should have not gone to her when Joanna started messaging me. In hindsight, it seems suspicious that Kyla started telling me about Joanna and at the same time, Joanna claimed to have an affair with my husband. I do not know what her intentions are, but I am mad enough that I will avoid her as much as possible. I wish I had some real proof that she was the one messaging me, so that I could expose her. I also feel bad for suspecting my husband. But I am glad my husband and I are on the same page now. Relevant comments. Commenter, does your husband also believe that Kyla made up a fake Instagram account, pretending to be Joanna? Because that's pretty psycho behavior. OP, yes. He believes me because I told him that I never told Kyla why I thought the account was fake. It's possible she guessed it if I ever mentioned to her that we play video games at night, but it seems suspicious she would guess that was exactly the reason why I realized the account was fake. Commenter, why didn't you try to message her real Insta since you knew the one she used to message you wasn't her main? Why not message her main account? That would have cleared it up pretty quick, I would think. Commenter, why didn't you try to message her real Insta since you knew the one she used to message you wasn't her main? Why not message her main account? That would have cleared it up pretty quick, I would think. OP, her Instagram was private. I did not want to follow her as it would have looked really bad for me to add her, when my husband has blocked her. The only way I could see her Instagram was when Kyla showed it to me on her phone. To another commenter, trust me, I thought about this. Firstly, I will look crazy if I reach out to Joanna, my husband's ex, behind his back. Secondly, even if it was her messaging me, she would just lie and tell me it was not her. I also cannot disregard the fact that I started getting messages a week after my husband ran into her and told her that he was happily married to me. I have to accept that Kyla, if it was her, will get away with the BS. We do not have any proof it was her, and all we could do is distance ourselves from her. Commenter, why did you lie to your husband about the fact that this woman had messaged you in the first place? You are the problem here. OP, agree, I should have told him right away. I tried to be sneaky to know if he really met her at the conference. I was half expecting him to deny it if he was trying to hide something happened. I think I let my insecurity get the worst of me. Lessons learned. Commenter, did he bring a gaming PC or Xbox with him to a work conference? OP, we both use Steam Decks to play games together when he is away.
My brother-in-law thinks I'm in love with him. He apologized for yesterday's jokes, explaining it's a habit when he avoids serious topics. Editor's note. In the original post, OP made a mistake of using two different names for one person in the posts. I am using the second name mentioned since it is used more frequently than the first name only used once. May 10th, 2023. Pretty much what the title says. I've never posted on here before, but I do like to read the stories sometimes. Let's call my sister Diana and her boyfriend Mike. I'm the youngest of my 3 siblings, Diana, and my brother, who we'll call Carlos. I came out as gay when I was 14, and my immediate family, my parents and siblings, were all supportive. My extended family, uncles, aunts, cousins, and grandparents are less accepting, so I don't tend to be as out and open around them. I graduated high school and started college 2 years ago when I was 17. I go to the same college that my sister is doing grad school at, and to save costs, I've been staying with her and her then fiancé at their apartment. Mike had always been really nice, and I was happy that my sister was with a nice guy. My siblings and I have always been super close, and that closeness didn't go away when I started living with Diana, so I would often end up hanging out with them and their friends sometimes. The semester just ended for the two of us, and we all went home this weekend to stay with my parents. We had a big family dinner, during which Mike kept making little jokes about me liking older guys. My boyfriend is 23, and how he would try to keep me away from him and his buddies. Me and my siblings questioned him about these jokes he was making, until he finally stopped making them. That was last night. This morning, my siblings and my parents went on a hike, which is a family activity that we usually enjoy thanks to us living close to the woods. I slept in and no one wanted to bother me, so they went without me. I figured that everyone had gone, but when I was eating my cereal in the living room and watching TV, Mike came out of the kitchen and sat next to me. I was surprised to see him, as I figured that he would have gone on the hike, but I guess not. He started by apologizing for making fun of me and then said that it was just a nervous tic of his when he didn't want to talk about something serious. He said that it was wrong of him to joke about my crush on him. When I requested for clarification because I was so perplexed, he claimed to know about my secret crush on him. I asked him why he would think that, and he cited a few things that he took as me liking him. First of all, I would always hang out with him and Diana. Second one, that I chose to live with them instead of in a dorm. Third, that he barely knew my boyfriend. And last one, that I didn't bring my boyfriend to their wedding. I tried to tell him that he was insane and that none of that meant I liked him, and they all had real explanations, but he just insisted that I was just trying to cover up the fact that I was in love with him. That was a few hours ago. I haven't told anyone in my family this yet, and I didn't have lunch with my family since I've had plans to be out with high school friends all day. One friend suggested that I post this here, so I guess that's why I'm doing this. I'll be sure to update if anything serious happens. Thanks for reading, LOL. Small update. Not sure if I should have made this its own post, but if I should have, let me know. Hello everyone. I had no idea that this would take off the way it did. I have a bit of a small update. I spent the night at my friend's house last night. This was planned before any of this. This morning I woke up and saw all of your comments and speculations. I took some time to reflect on the two main possibilities that you all seem to have come up with. Either he's one of those straight guys that thinks that all gay guys are attracted to him, definitely met a few of those, or he likes me and is projecting it, or trying to make it sound like my idea. After thinking about it a lot, I think that it is more likely to be the second option. I am a person who really loves physical displays of affection. Like hugs and cuddles and stuff. My siblings and I are super close like I said, so I was used to showing my affection this way. Looking back, I realized that Mike was more than willing to show affection this way, as my sister is the same. Mike and Diana had been dating since high school, but I only really got to know him in the last 2 years at college. He was always open to physical affection with me, right off the bat. There have been many comments that he has made that I took as harmless at the time, but now with the context, I realize there may have been clues. He would almost always ask me how he looked, like, before he went out for the day, and would in turn compliment me back. I took things that he said as jokes, like when he told me that my ass looked good in an outfit, or he would tell me that I looked just like my sister, who is gorgeous. I always took this as him being nice, but now I'm not sure if that was his only intention. Anyway, to the actual update. This morning, I called for a sibling meeting at a diner that we like to go to. Sibling meetings are something that we've been doing since we were kids, where we'd talk about things like convincing our parents to get us a pet or splitting the household chores. We met at the diner for brunch, and my brother immediately went on and said how weird it was that Mike was making jokes about me. Diana said that he was still making jokes to her privately after dinner and that it wasn't the first time he had made those types of jokes. She said that she figured that he was one of those guys who thought that gay guys liked him, but then I told him about his apology yesterday morning and all the comments and other jokes he's made, and we all think it was pretty weird. I showed them my post and they briefly read through the comments as well. My sister said that she would talk to him about it and told me that no matter what happened, she would never hold anything against me, or blame me for anything, so that was reassuring. We had food and I went back to my friend's house and my sister said she would let me know if anything happens. I also texted my boyfriend about all of this. Since he's British, there's a bit of a time difference, so he hasn't responded yet. I want to make sure he stays informed. Right now, I'm hanging out with my friends, watching them play a video game and pretending to know what's happening. LOL. I'll keep you all updated. Comments. First, by Mike's theory, with every example he gave you, you also have a crush on your sister, so I might point that out to him unless you think he'd actually believe it. Second, did he stay behind in hopes of talking to you alone? Maybe the real issue is he has developed a crush on you. If he continues making jokes or whatnot, then I might consider saying something to your sister, but if it ends here, I would try to bring your BF around a little more. I don't even understand why he felt the need to bring it up to you. Kinda weird. Update, June 27, 2024, 1 year and 1 month later. Hello everyone. I would first like to say thank you all for your support in the comments of my last post and in your guys' private messages to me. After the last mini update, I had logged off of Reddit and a lot of things have happened, so I honestly kind of forgot that I even had this account still. Coincidentally, I was on TikTok a while ago when I found one of those AI voice accounts that read Reddit stories over someone playing Minecraft parkour. Those types of videos are like weeds. Once you see one of them, your entire timeline gets flooded with them. Earlier today, a video with part of my Reddit post came across my FYP, and the comments were full of people asking if there were any updates. It has been over a year, and I am so sorry for keeping you all in the dark. I saw that my last post was archived and nobody could comment on it, so I figured I should make a new post. For those of you who might be seeing me for the first time ever, I believe you can find my first post on my page. I would recommend reading that before you read this one. I would also like to issue a trigger warning for sexual assault. Now, onto the whole mess that was the past year for me. So the last time I updated y'all was in May of last year. Me and my siblings were all on summer break from college, and were home for the summer. So the day after I talked to my siblings at the diner, I returned home from my friend's house and everything seemed normal. My sister informed me that she had talked to her boyfriend, that he had seemed more receptive to her concerns, and he was a lot more calm towards me. He stayed with us until the end of that week, where no further incident occurred between us, before he left to go visit his own family. He's on the complete other side of the country as us. Shortly after he left, I noticed that my favorite pair of underwear was missing after doing a load of laundry. At the time, I chalked it up to being lost in the wash or maybe mixed up with someone else's clothes. They were a pair of pink briefs, which I find more comfortable for my body type than other forms of underwear, though they're unfortunately considered more sexy. I'm sure you can all understand what actually happened to them. My sister only stayed with us for 2 weeks, as her job was only allowing her so much time that she could be remote. From what I knew, her boyfriend had returned to our apartment around the same time as her. I stayed for the whole month, before I too had to return to the city our college is in because I had gotten a summer internship in that city. So I was back to staying with my sister and her boyfriend. A few weeks into that, my sister was out for the night because of her friend's bachelorette party, and her boyfriend was out at a bar with his friends, which left me alone in the apartment for the night. I had a movie night, and went to bed early. I awoke in the middle of the night to my sister's boyfriend in my bed, touching me. When he noticed I was awake, he held me down and assaulted me. The whole time he was doing it, he was threatening my and my sister's lives, saying that if I told her, or anyone, he would kill both of us. My sister ended up staying the night at her friend's place, and her boyfriend assaulted me 2 more times before she came home. I was pretty broken by that point, and his threats against our lives were ringing in my ears all the time. This cycle continued, where my sister's boyfriend would act withdrawn from me when around others, especially my sister, then assault me whenever he could, threatening both of our lives if I ever spoke up. It's such a difficult thing to describe. The rational part of your brain tells you that it is just a manipulation tactic, that he was lying, and that I needed to speak up, but the irrational part of my brain was so scared. I don't know if that makes sense to you all. Maybe those of you who have been through a similar situation as me might understand it. I also began to change. My usually happy and bubbly personality changing to a more withdrawn, moody, almost depressed one. I took to wearing less revealing clothes, especially at home, think from tank tops and booty shorts to t-shirts and pants. A reminder that this was happening in summer, so my previous wardrobe was better for the weather. About 3 months later, in September, when I was back to school and done with the summer internship, my sister was doing laundry one day and decided to surprise me by doing mine too, because she is a sweetheart like that. She also decided to wash my sheets for me, and that's when she saw that there were blood stains on my sheets. This immediately raised concerns with her. So that day, when I came home from campus, I found my sister on the couch, with the sheet next to her. She tentatively asked me if I had been self-harming, as she herself had been through that struggle. She has scars on her thighs from doing it. She told me that my recent change of mood, and the fact that I had changed my wardrobe to be more covered up, especially my legs, had her worried. I told her I was not, but could offer no explanation as to why the sheets were bloody. It was then that I broke down and had a huge panic attack. My sister tried to calm me down at first, but when that didn't help, and I was still struggling, she decided to take me to the ER. The attack lasted for about 45 minutes, only going away when they gave me some sort of medication to help me calm down. Apologies, my memories from this particular part are a little spotty. Once I calmed down, I was allowed to stay in the hospital room for a little bit, and when it was eventually me and my sister, where I confessed it all to her. She was extremely comforting, and asked me when the last time he had assaulted me was. It was the night before, so she pressed the little doctor or nurse call thing, and told them that I was going to need a rape kit. For those of you who want the specifics of that process, please Google it. After that, I just wanted to go home. My sister took me, and left me in her car at first, then came out and ensured that her boyfriend was not there yet. She texted him and told him to not come home, as the two of us were really sick and we did not want to infect him. The next day, instead of going to our classes, she took me to our local police station to file a police report. This whole process was also long and laborious, and honestly my memory surrounding it all is kinda hazy, something my therapist says can happen with traumatic experiences, but with the evidence found from the rape kit, and my testimony, he got a sentence of 4 years and a fine, and he has to register on the sex offender registry. I am doing much better now. My schooling was only a little bit affected, but nothing too bad, and I'm on summer break again. My sister and I are both close still, we are both in therapy, and I'm getting through things day by day. I am currently writing this from home, and I'm flying out to London next week to see my boyfriend. I will try to not forget this page again, haha. Additional information from OP on how Mike was confronted. OP, yeah, so he was at a friend's place while we were at our apartment. My sister was still maintaining that we were sick. We told the police which friend he was likely to be staying with, and he was taken from there. Since I got the rape kit, they were able to get DNA from that, plus we submitted the sheets as evidence, and there was some DNA on there too. The police compared his DNA to the DNA found, and that was what nailed him as guilty. He maintained his innocence until his sentence was delivered. He threatened me when they were taking him out. OP shares details from Mike's family after they found out what happened and their reactions. OP. His family was a bit of a problem at first. His parents sort of had the "my son would never" attitude. They attended all of the court sessions, and as more and more of our evidence, DNA from the rape kit and the sheets, pictures of the bruises he left on me and of the sheets themselves, was shown, and at my testimony, they admonished him. They sent my sister a message apologizing for his actions and sending me their sympathies. He has a sister from what I know, but I haven't seen her. She might be estranged or have little contact based on what my sister has told me. Comments. First, I'm so heartbroken that this happened to you. I am so proud of you for coming forward. That is outrageously difficult and not something everyone is able to do. I'm so very thankful your sister listened, believed you and supported you. There are no words to adequately describe the strength and love you and your sister have shown. All my love. OP, thank you. I really wouldn't be anywhere without my sister. I had no idea of what to do or how to report it or anything. Thank you for your words of encouragement. Second, no the update I expected nor wanted, but I'm glad you got some form of justice. I really am praying for your recovery, honey. You didn't deserve that, and neither did your sister. I can only imagine how you feel, and I truly hope that you heal from all the hurt physically, mentally and spiritually. Sending you and your sister so much love, PA. OP, thank you so much. I'm doing better every day, smile. I found out I was pregnant with my 4th child not long after divorcing my husband. I'm conflicted about whether I should keep this baby. This is long. I'm sorry, I've sort of written a novel here. I wanted to post this in a relationship advice group, but the subject matter isn't allowed. My ex-husband and I were married for 10 years, although the last 2 were spent in variations of separation. We've been divorced for roughly a year. We have 3 kids, 10, 8, 5, I'm pregnant with our 4th baby. I don't know if we'll actually be parents to 4 kids or not. I'm so conflicted. We are so conflicted. There was no abuse or cheating in our marriage, although he did sleep with somebody else during our separation. There are a variety of other reasons why we ultimately got divorced. After the initial feelings of failure and heartache, and there was an immense amount of heartache on my end despite being the one who filed for divorce, we were able to get along pretty well. It becomes platonic so quickly, and it's like when we remove the romantic and married relationship from the equation, things got so much better. We split time with our kids 50-50ths. That's really hard for me because being a mom is such a huge part of my identity that I still sometimes struggle to know what to do with myself during his time with the kids. Ultimately, I'm happy that he's a loving, involved father, and I'm glad that they do spend half their time with him, even if I still sometimes cry over not being with them all the time. We still do things together as a family sometimes. We sit together at our kids' activities, things like that. He has a girlfriend now. She seems nice. He met her not long after our divorce was finalized. It hurt. I cried way too much over it. He waited over 6 months to introduce her to our kids, which I was thankful for. My kids like her. Our youngest child was unexpectedly admitted to the hospital not long ago. He had surgery. In the grand scheme of things, it was a pretty minor surgery and he's absolutely fine now, but this is my baby and he had to spend multiple nights in the hospital, so this was a big deal for me. My ex-husband was there the entire time, being a great dad, being a supportive partner to me as I worried over every little thing. We spent all those nights in the hospital together and I remembered why I married him. He was always able to be the strong, level-headed rock for me. He was this safe person who I knew would take care of everything and protect me. When we were in the hospital, he told me that I'm the most important woman in his life. When our son was discharged, my ex-husband came back to my house. My baby was home safe. Our other 2 children were excited to be home after staying with my husband's sister for several nights. We were all together at home like a family again. That night after our kids were in bed, we had sex. I hadn't been hoping for it or planning it. It was just like as soon as the kids were tucked away in their rooms, we were having this intensely passionate, needy, amazing sex that we shouldn't have been having. We went to sleep in my bed and at some point in the middle of the night we had sex again. The next morning we both decided our emotions with the whole situation with our son just got the better of us. We said we didn't regret sleeping together, but that's all it was, and we were just going to go back to our normal divorce lives. We wouldn't make it awkward, just move on. Then I found out I was pregnant. We didn't use a condom. I don't even have condoms in my house anymore. I'm not on birth control. I haven't been since we divorced. I haven't needed it since I haven't had the time or interest to start dating again. I really wanted to be single for a while. I know I was ovulating when we slept together, which was probably a contributing subconscious factor as to why it happened. My body sees him being a good dad to our kids and it wants another. My cycle is like clockwork and we've always conceived on the first try every time we've tried to get pregnant. Our first kid was not even a try. It was 2 weeks before your wedding you find out you're pregnant and spend your honeymoon with morning sickness surprise. So now I'm about 8 weeks pregnant. I've known for about a week. I just told him this past weekend. I didn't know if I would tell him at all. I realize now that I only told him in hopes that he'd tell me what to do and figure the situation out for me. Only he didn't. I know it makes no sense to have a baby with somebody I chose to divorce. I don't need a 4th child. Why can't I let go of this though? Update 1. I posted about a week ago. My ex-husband and I have been divorced for about a year. We have 3 kids, ranging from 10, 5 years old. We have gotten along great since the divorce, better than when we were married. It's almost like we're friends, can do things with our kids, and enjoy being around each other. About 2 months ago, our youngest unexpectedly ended up having surgery and spending several nights in the hospital. He's fine now. My ex-husband and I stayed together with our son the entire time he was in the hospital. When he was discharged, my ex-husband came back to my house, or former family home, at our son's request. He was just supposed to spend a few hours there. Help our son get settled, then go home. However, I guess all of the emotions and being together as a family in our former shared home got the better of us and we ended up having sex twice that night. Now I'm 9 weeks pregnant. I wasn't on birth control, was on it until after our divorce was finalized, but have been intentionally remaining single for a while and not involved with men in any way, so was giving my body a break from birth control. Initially we were undecided about what to do, but as of last weekend we made the decision together to have the baby. It feels sort of crazy to me. Definitely not a situation I ever imagined I'd find myself in. I already picture this baby looking just like our other kids. I guess that's why I struggled with the idea of not continuing with the pregnancy, which I know isn't really a valid reason to have a baby. This is probably the last baby I'll ever have. I'm 39, so even if I were to meet a man who I trusted enough to want to have a child with and a future with, I'll be well into my 40s by then. I plan to be very picky, but I'm not even at the point of wanting to find somebody new yet. We're not getting back together, for now. We get along great when we're not married and living in the same house. We feel it'd be irresponsible to all of our children to attempt to get back together right now because of this. Chances are higher that we'll be able to co-parent this baby successfully if we live separately. However, we are committed to working together to do what has to be done to take care of the baby when he or she gets here. Our kids are doing so great right now and they seem very happy and secure with the current setup of our lives and homes, so we want to stick with this for now. I don't know if I really understand what I'm getting myself into. Our other kids were all born into a marriage and a two-parent home. I know that sharing custody of a baby will be a lot different than the kids going back and forth between homes. I might be feeling too positive about it, but I think it could work out fine. The new baby will just see this as normal, right? Next thing to worry about will be having to explain this to everyone when we tell them. My family and friends will get over it, but I'm especially concerned with explaining it to our kids. I'm worried our oldest won't take the news well. She also knows what sex is and how babies are made. And for everyone concerned about his girlfriend, she's not his girlfriend anymore. Top rated comment: these two are 100% getting back together within a year and then breaking up again in another. Update 2. Several people have asked me for an update on my situation. My ex-husband and I are having a baby. My other posts are on my profile. A recap is that we were married for 10 years, divorced for almost 1.5 years now, and have 3 kids together. We slept together twice during a stressful family time and I ended up pregnant. We've since admitted we are both still in love with each other, but have not actually declared that we're back together, mainly for the same of our kids. I last posted toward the end of January. I'm 28 weeks pregnant. We're having a little girl. As far as the pregnancy goes, it's been like a textbook pregnancy, and so I feel pretty good, just more tired than I ever remember being during pregnancy before. My husband and I continue to live separately and share custody of our kids. We each have them 50% of the time. They're all aware that we're having a baby and none of them seem to be deeply confused or emotionally damaged by their divorced parents having a baby together. We explained it in an age-appropriate way. Our oldest child was more grossed out that her parents had sex than anything else, since she now understands what sex is and how babies are made. We've been involved with her quite a bit and she's excited now. I even took her to one of my appointments. She's excited to have a baby sister and she understands that mom and dad love her and her siblings, that we love this new baby, and that we love each other as people and as parenting partners without actually being together as a married couple in one house. Meanwhile, my husband and I have started to attend couples counseling. We tried marriage counseling when we were separated before we divorced, but I think we were both already pretty mentally done, so counseling didn't do much for us then. I think we're getting way more out of it now because we're actually invested in it and putting in a lot of effort. Sometimes I feel great after a session, and at other times I feel not so great and am reminded of reasons why we divorced. Overall, I think it's a good thing for us no matter what happens with our relationship. We've been sleeping together for the last few months. We already agreed that we won't be seeing other people at this time. I wouldn't be saying this while pregnant anyway, and it's not as if I'll even have time with 3 kids and a newborn. We agreed that we will not open ourselves to being with other people while we are working on our relationship and before that conversation is had between us. We are carrying on just as we have been since our divorce, as far as our kids are concerned. Dad doesn't spend the night at our house. We do things together as a family sometimes, but we were doing that even before anything was rekindled between us. We're not acting as a couple when we're together as a family. We're friendly with each other, but there is no holding hands, kissing, etc. Our main concern is our kids. We refuse to say we're back together. If we officially get back together, we really want to feel certain that it'd be for the long term, that we're ready to commit to that. We don't want to give our kids whiplash or do anything to make them insecure about our family. We would like to get to that point, but we aren't there yet. I think if my husband had his way, we'd be there. He's ready to say he's there now. He'd love to move back home. But he understands and agrees with my reasoning. I'd love for him to move back home too, based only on emotions. We both have things to work on, separately and together. I want to be a better spouse this time around. I thought I was being a really great wife and I was on the surface. I also know that right now I feel so in love and am hopped on hormones and pregnancy happiness. I always feel super happy, super positive, and super horny during pregnancy, and I know I have to be careful with trusting anything I feel during this time because it's like I'm on a 24/7 natural high. I think the biggest issue right now is that he's far more, let's throw caution to the wind, even though he agrees with all of my reasoning, and I want to be way more careful. Final update. I've made a few posts about my husband getting pregnant after we divorced. We were married for 10 years and had 3 kids before getting divorced. We got along so much better after we divorced and we have been really good co-parents during this time, but we were functioning strictly as friendly co-parents. We slept together around 1 year after our divorce was finalized and conceived a 4th baby, which we ultimately decided to keep. Our 4th child, a sweet baby girl, was born at the end of May. She's so perfect and we both feel we made the right choice to bring her into the world. It was the smoothest, easiest birth I've had and I take that as a sign. I feel like I fell in love with him all over again during labor and delivery, and that's when I knew I was ready to make our relationship official and public to everyone, including our children. Contrary to all the assumptions, our kids really don't seem to be negatively affected or confused about the baby, and I don't think the newest baby is getting any less love or attention than our 3 kids born within our marriage have. This is normal to them now. They understand we're still a family, and no matter what, we'll always be a family whether mom and dad live together. We are still living separately and technically still maintaining the custody schedule we had in place for our oldest 3 kids. Although, the kids are with me every weekday right now since it's summer break and I'm on maternity leave. We have a different arrangement for the baby, but he does take her overnight a few nights a week. I got our family home in the divorce and he spends time here with all of us. He has spent some nights here at home to help with the baby, but he doesn't stay in my bedroom quite yet. He has not moved in, although he has tried and continues to suggest it. This is probably the biggest point of contention these days. To me, this feels like the best of both worlds. I love him and truly don't want to be with anyone else. I think I sort of function better and am happier also living in my own space that he just visits. I know it's not the norm and some might say this means I don't really love him as much as I think. I really believe I'm just one of those people who needs more independence and alone time, and maybe we never would have got divorced in the first place if this had been the arrangement from the beginning. Is it sort of selfish? Maybe. I don't know anyone else with this arrangement, but I know some people out there do this. For all intents and purposes, we are together in a relationship again. We've made it official and exclusive, as juvenile as that sounds. We had already made it official between ourselves, but we hadn't really announced it to family and friends or our kids. We are still in love with each other or back in love with each other, and we are not seeing anyone else. Our kids have adjusted well. They've been seeing a therapist since we filed for divorce, so that has really helped us navigate some of this. Prior to the baby's birth, we did not tell them that we were essentially in a relationship. Only so long you can keep that a secret from your kids. Even though they're young, they're perceptive. So we've recently explained to them that mommy and daddy love each other, but we get along better living in separate homes, and for now we think this is the best thing for our family. The only problem is that now they keep asking about when we will all live together again. I'm sure it's a little confusing to them, but I'm not sure how we could be handling it any better. We attempted marriage counseling when we separated, before divorce. It was not successful. I don't think either of us was 100% committed to it at the time. He really did not take it seriously back then, but I was more stubborn and resistant than I originally realized. We're in couples therapy now and it's like night and day compared to last time. I'm scared to live together again, so we aren't going to do that anytime soon. It's not that I don't trust him. I don't trust us as a couple. I refuse to put my kids through all of that again. So, getting remarried and moving in together isn't something in the plans right now. Maybe one day. I hope we can get to that point. I just don't want my kids to have to go through a divorce and splitting households yet again. I feel like they'd lose all trust in us then. OP on their living situation. I think it might be best for us to find a way to each have our own place next to each other or on the same property, instead of one actual house that we share. Other than not living together, we are together. It's no different than any other couple that's dating but doesn't live together. Well, it's a little different since we share kids and we were once married and I still usually refer to him as my husband, but not too different. We aren't keeping our relationship a secret anymore, so we aren't pretending to not be together. Everyone knows now. We spend a lot of time together. But yeah, he may eventually want more than I do, as in a relationship where we live together 24/7. At this point, the hubby's ex-GF was firmly in the rearview mirror and OP was still brushing it off as if it is no biggie, but I found one exchange that people may find interesting. OP, downvoted. Yes, he had a girlfriend at the time. It's in my post history and I'm not trying to hide it, but we have moved well beyond that now. Response. People are downvoting her comment because it is pretty black and white when it comes to cheating. Cheating hurts others and a lot of people value living in a world and having actions that don't result in hurting others. He was in a relationship and committed to his girlfriend when he decided that he had the right to sleep with his ex and not immediately tell her that he did it. She deserved better than to get trauma from someone who claimed to be committed to her, but was willing to step out on her. Cheating on someone does result in emotional trauma, which will affect how they will view love and relationships going forward. Personally, if he wasn't ready to be in a relationship with her, then he should have left her alone. I am tired of men in particular getting into relationships with women when they know they are not clearly over their ex-partner. It is a sign of selfishness and pure disregard of another human being's health. She was used as an emotional support and sex object by him, because no one that respects their partner would do something this cruel. So I'm not going to cheer on someone who could have just avoided this entire situation by not being in a relationship when he was clearly not ready to be in one. And hurt someone deeply. Edit, I want to add additional thought as well. Cheating is not only an emotional hurt but a sign that you give zero care about your partner's health. He was presumably still having sex with his ex-girlfriend after sleeping with no condoms with his ex-wife. With the rate of sexually transmitted diseases and infections increasing and the likelihood of the disease being antibiotic resistant, he told his ex that he had zero care for health and emotional well-being. She had the basic right to know that he slept with another person while still being intimate with her. Especially with no form of protection. Not calling the ex-wife dirty but with the risk of catching a disease that's incurable, or opens you up to higher risk of illness. Every person who is engaging in a sexual relationship deserves honesty. OP. All of this may be true. I'm not arguing anything you said. But I'd like to know what everyone on Reddit thinks we're supposed to do about it. We can't go back in time and undo what we did. Maybe Redditors feel that as an act of penance we should not be together, despite very much wanting to, since that's what we deserve for hurting her in the process. We should never be allowed to move on and have any happiness in our lives, together or separate, because we did something at one time that hurt somebody. Short of publicly flogging ourselves and maybe not allowing ourselves to ever be in a relationship with anyone ever again as a form of self-punishment, what are we supposed to do to satisfy the masses? Neither of us are proud of hurting somebody. I love my husband but am no longer physically attracted to him. Not because of his looks, but because he isn't manly enough. I know this is a horrible thing to say, but I have to say it. It's a throwaway account. My husband and I are in our mid-40s, married for over 20 years, and have 3 beautiful children, all in their double digits. I do love my husband, but I don't know if I'm physically attracted to him, not because of his looks but because of how he lives his life. My husband is a good man, treats me very well, and is an amazing father to our children. Physically, he is tall, with broad shoulders, not skinny or athletic, but not obese either. He is a big guy with a big beard, big arms, and big hands. He is built like a linebacker. He can physically intimidate people with just his presence, although he never intentionally does that. He can control a room and has a very masculine job at which he excels. However, the manliness ends there. This is why I may not be attracted to him anymore, if I ever was. He is not handy. It's not that he doesn't try to fix or do things around the house, but he cannot build anything. Anything he does fix never looks or works right. Often we have to hire people to fix or build things for us. He doesn't drink. He will go out once in a while and have a couple of beers, but he doesn't drink at home. My husband isn't into any manly stuff. He doesn't hunt, fish, or do anything with automobiles, and is not big into sports. He has taken the kids fishing and shooting, just so they have the experience, but he does it just for them. He really doesn't have any hobbies. I begged him to take one up, so he started building Lego sets. He's in his 40s. He loves going to movies, likes cooking. I never have to cook when he is home, and he does a lot of the house cleaning. I will give him this. He doesn't play video games or board games, unless it's family time, or do anime or any of that. He is not controlling in bed. Sex is okay, but I want him to take charge. I won't say anything about this to him. I wouldn't know where to start. I do love him. It's not that I want him to be a drunk or macho aggressive jerk, but sometimes I just want a man to take charge and fix things and be a man. This is bad, I know. I feel bad saying it, just needed to say it. Update 1, hello. I wanted to add a little update to my original post. I don't know how to link it to this one, so you'll have to go into my history. I received a lot of hate for my thoughts and feelings. I realized when I wrote them and read comments about them that they come off as mean and cruel. I have no right to feel this way. The problem is that I do feel this way. I don't know how to change it. I thought about it for a few days and finally needed to take action because it was weighing on me so bad. I received some messages from people telling me to have a conversation with my husband. I decided to. I thought for quite a while about what I would say, how I would say it, and tried to think of questions or statements he would have that I thought about responses to. Last night we had a talk. Kids were at work and at friends' houses. We were sitting outside enjoying the fresh evening air. I brought it up. In short, nothing went as expected and I am as confused about my marriage as I ever was. I began by telling him that I love him. I love that he is a great father and person. However, there were some feelings I could not shake and there were some changes from him that I needed. I talked about his hobbies, changing it up a bit. Working in our bedroom, what I wanted out of it. I explained in the most sensitive way that I could about how I feel about his personality and overall measure as a man. I did not use those exact words. I was more gentle. However, in order to move forward with our marriage, I felt I needed to be honest. I did tell him that I wanted honesty from him as well and wanted him to tell me what I could do to be a better wife. I know I cannot ask him to change without having some changes myself. I never expected his reaction. He literally just stared at me. Said nothing. His reaction was emotionless. No anger, sadness, acceptance, nothing. Just stared. I said everything I wanted to say. I was looking for a response. I got none. After sitting in silence for a while, waiting for some reaction or words, I just yelled at him to say something. At least tell me what I need to work on. The only thing he said to me last night was, "I knew who you were when I married you. I am not going to ask you to change anything." That's it. We sat in silence for at least an hour after that. Our oldest then came home from work, and he went to talk to him for a while. Not about our conversation, but how work went and stuff. My husband did not sleep in bed last night. He slept on the basement couch. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to feel. I do feel better about telling him how I felt, but not as great as I thought. I really do not know how to feel. Maybe that's a sign my marriage is over? I can't feel anything about it? I should be happy I said it, sad he won't talk to me, angry for no response, but I have nothing. I guess I'll give it some time for both of us to process. Update 2. I apologize again, I still do not know how to post my previous updates or the original post. Please look at my history. My last update I laid out what happened while talking to my husband. He spent that night and last night on the couch downstairs sleeping. We haven't talked about our conversation. He has talked to me, but not about that, and the talks we have are short. We have had our kids around all weekend, so I never have gotten the opportunity to sit down with him, and with him sleeping downstairs, I figured to just give him some space. I don't know how to proceed. I have talked with a coworker about this, just to get advice since I needed someone in my life to talk to. He advised me to give it a bit of time to let my husband talk to me. But if there's no change offered by him, then it may be time to tell him that we need to separate. I don't want to do that, but it may come to that. I want him to see where I'm coming from, and I want him to tell me what I can do to change. That is where we are at. No real big update, but I will give him until the end of the week. If he doesn't initiate anything, I will. Edit. Okay, I had to edit this post because there have been some comments about my coworker. I had these feelings about my husband before I talked with my coworker. We are not having an affair, we are not doing anything inappropriate. He is giving me some guidance because he is a man and I figured he could help. Nothing more than that. Also, please stop calling me names because I have these feelings and am trying to navigate them with my husband. I cannot help my feelings any more than you can help yours. Think about that. Think about an off feeling you had and wish you didn't have. It's happened to everyone, including you. So please stop. Update 3. This is not so much an update but a repeat of the edit on my previous update. I am not having an affair with my coworker. I went to him after I was having these feelings about my husband. For advice only. There is no emotional or physical affair going on. I go to him for advice, he gives it and I either take it or I don't. He is not pushing me to do anything, it's just his advice. I literally have no other friends or family in this area, or I would have gone to them. Also, these are my feelings about my husband. I have tried very hard not to feel this way, but I can't stop. I don't know how many of the angels and pure people on this app are able to control their feelings so well, but you obviously are better than I am. None of you have ever had feelings you couldn't shake or feel bad about. If you say you have, you are a liar. I posted my feelings because I am genuinely confused, scared and don't know what to do. I feel that you guys just bash but provide no answers. There have been some of you that have been beautiful and helpful, sending me DMs, and I thank you for that. The rest of you in the comments, think before you post. If you don't want to provide sound advice, please just move on. Final update. Okay, I'm done. Not so much an update, but I have been getting so much hate for simply looking for advice. Comments, DMs, all have been just blasting me. I am not going to post on this anymore. What happens between my husband and I will remain between us. This was the stupidest decision, posting on here and then continuing to post on here. I am not cheating on my husband. It's a coworker. We have talked a few times about it. We only texted a couple of times. We don't talk about feelings for one another. Just someone I asked for a little guidance from, and he was nice enough to give it. Yes, my husband is a good man. No, I am not a piece of crap for having the feelings I do. I stand by talking to him about my feelings, because that is what people do in a marriage. If my marriage is over because he cannot accept what I have to say or change the small things I want him to change, then so be it. But I am done posting. Thank you to the people of Reddit for absolutely nothing. My sister is severely autistic, requiring constant attention and unable to care for herself. I have been hating her for a long time. Am I the asshole? The title makes me sound horrible, but hear me out. My sister is severely autistic. She requires attention almost 24/7 and cannot be left alone. She is nonverbal and cannot take care of herself at all. Despite the fact that she is only 12, she is extremely destructive and violent and destroys anything she gets her hands on. I hate her. That should be wrong to say, but it doesn't feel like it. I was only 6 years old when she was born, and since then I've never solely had my parents' attention. Even since I can remember, the world has revolved around her. I was moved out of my room into the basement at 7 because she needed to be in the room next to my parents. All of my toys as a child were destroyed by her, and my parents simply ignored me when I complained. Even when I was 14 and she destroyed a Mac my school gave me, I was in the wrong. Along with this, I am expected to take care of her and drop everything I do for her. I can never make plans with a friend because my parents expect me to be there if they need me to take care of her. Even when I do somehow get time to myself, I'm required to leave if they need me. If I do not, then I am punished. The recent example of this is when I went to see the new Spider-Man movie, and was grounded because I turned my phone off in the theater. It seems as if I am nothing more than a slave to them, and anything involving her simply overshadows me. This last week I was chosen to give a speech at a school event. I was so excited and my parents promised to be there, but they never showed and claimed it was because of my sister. Anytime anything like this happens for me, they are too busy with her. I've held this in for so long and it finally spilled out today. While talking about colleges with my father, he joked that I should get a degree that pays well so when they're gone I can take care of my sister. I don't know why, but this caused me to break down. I cried and screamed about how it was always about her. I'm nothing more than a caretaker to them, that they always make it about her and that I'm expected to be her slave for the rest of my life. I've locked myself in my room since then and my parents have not come to check on me. Am I an asshole here? Edit. Wow, thank you for all the support and love that you guys have given me. I never expected this post to reach the popularity it did. Thank you all. After thinking about it for these past few hours, you are right that I don't despise my sister. It's not her fault that she was born the way she is. My parents came to talk to me a while after my breakdown, but I was unable to bring myself to talk to them and only cried and asked them to leave. They have made arrangements with my grandfather for me to stay with him for the time being and am getting ready to go to his house. My parents want to talk to me, but we have decided it's best I leave for now to have some space and time to collect myself. We will be sitting down and talking later this week about this issue. Thank you all again for the love and support through this. I'll send an update your guys' way later this week if people are interested. Relevant comments. Comment 1 NTA. These are perfectly legitimate and understandable feelings. You have done nothing to sign up for taking care of another human being. It's not like she's your kid, and that was wrong of your dad to joke about, because it sounds like he probably is really thinking along those lines. Be honest with your parents about how you feel. Make clear that it's insane that you're expected to be a full-time babysitter, grounded for no phone in a theater. That's fucking bullshit. Comment 2, NTA. Kid, I hope you go to college far away from home. Later in life, make sure your parents understand that you won't be taking responsibility, so they better have care and funding in place. Comment 3, if you can, go to college far away. Time away and on your own to be just you will be good for you. Because I think your dad was only half joking, at some point you will want to have a conversation about how they need to plan for the care of your sister in the future. And make it clear that it is not you, especially if you feel the same way as you do now. I'm really sorry your parents didn't handle this better, and I hope that one day your anger moves away from your sister. Comment 4. This is a parent problem, not a sister problem. I am a parent of one autistic child and one neurotypical child, and I will tell you that we would never treat our NT child like his role is to take care of his sister. If she ruins his stuff, we replace it. We have also given him some separate space, with a lock, so that we can prevent her getting into his stuff. Now if he leaves it out, that's another story, but we try our best. Are there ways in which having a sister with a disability still might suck for him? Of course. We're a family, and what impacts one tends to impact us all. But we try to mitigate that, and at least sympathize when we can't. We also make sure that he benefits in whatever ways we can. Like the fact that he has never had to wait in a long line at an amusement park because of her skipping the line pass. It sounds like your parents haven't done any of this, and have in fact, made everything worse for you. That is not your sister's fault. She can't help who she is, and at only 12, she is still learning and growing, and you may still have a great relationship once you're both adults. Your parents, on the other hand, should have done better by you. The brunt of your anger belongs to them. Update. Well, since that day I made the post, I've been staying with my grandfather. The week's been honestly a huge change for me, for better and for worse, but I'll try to run it down. I started by telling my grandpa the story of why I broke down the way I did, and to be honest, he seemed horrified. No one in my family knew my parents were using me as essentially a free care service for my sister. My grandpa told me some things that I don't feel comfortable repeating here, but in essence my sister is supposed to be getting care from a professional and that my parents were ignoring that. Along with this, I was not supposed to be caring for her at all with her mental state, as apparently she is a danger to herself and others. With everything else I told him, along with stuff like the movie Indecent, he was really mad and told me to not contact my parents without him there. He pretty much told me that he would be meeting with my parents beforehand and that he was going to be there when I sat down with them. It didn't end here either. The rest of the week consisted of other family checking in on me and telling me things my parents hid from me. This included the fact that my parents have been taking money from the family to fund a caretaker that doesn't exist. Suffice to say, this week has been rough. But the upside is that even through all this, my extended family has been giving me more love than I've felt in a while. My grandfather spent this last week making up for the time I've lost, encouraging me to spend time with friends and do things I want to do. My aunts and uncles have also been helping me through the week. Well, Saturday night I sat down with my parents to talk. It went badly, to say the least. They came clean to me about everything. They told me things I will not repeat here. But they did not apologize. My parents still claim that I somehow owed my sister my time. My father even saying you were put here to be her caretaker. I won't lie and say I was composed. After everything I learned, I confronted them on the fact that my sister needed a caretaker. The money my dad was taking from his sister, and a few other things. They denied it or made excuses. And in the end, we ended off in a worse place than before. Today will be my last time talking to them for a while. After talking with my grandfather and uncle last night, I'm not going back. Later today, I'm going there and picking up my stuff and moving in with my grandfather. When I graduate high school, I'm planning on leaving the state to go to school. My aunt has told me that the money she was sending my dad will instead be coming to me from now on. My parents have called me twice since Saturday. Neither of them were to apologize and only ask when I was coming home. I won't be going back to them. Right now I still feel pretty uneasy about everything, but I feel like that will pass. The rest of my family is showing their support to me, and honestly, it feels great. But in the end, I lost my parents. Over all of this, I've learned something that I wished I saw earlier. I don't hate my sister. In fact, I love her with all my heart. I should never have projected my hate onto her. That was wrong, and someday I hope to make up for it. But for now I need to leave. So here's my update. Thanks again for the support my original post got. I really appreciate everyone who took the time to comment or show me support. Thank you. Edit, thank you all so much. I wish I could respond to every single one of you, but my lunch only lasts so long. I'll update tonight how the move out went, but until then, thank you all. I want to say that your support has been amazing and your kindness means more to me than anyone could ever imagine. Late edit. Wow, I never imagined my story would reach the popularity it did. I know it's kinda cliche and I've said it 1,000 times, but thank you all. We just got back from moving my things out of my parents' house. Everything I wanted to take my grandpa and uncle helped move, and it's at my grandpa's house now. I have my birth certificate, social security card, and every other document and record I could think of. My parents were quiet the whole time I was there. Shortly after I arrived, my dad left with my sister and my mom only hovered over us silently as I moved. It took a while, but as we left she broke down and told me she loved me and would miss me. I hugged her and said goodbye, and that was it. Even now I sit here and think if she really meant it. After this whole week of her not saying anything, she waited till the end. I hope she meant it. Right now though, I think I just need to look ahead. Maybe one day me and my parents can reconnect. I hope so. Thank you all for the advice and love. It's been amazing, and I'm glad that through this experience I at least got some positive out of this mess. Will I come back? I don't know. If something happens and you guys still want an update, I'll maybe come around again. But for now I'm going to move on. For all those out there who shared their stories with me, thank you, and I hope to see you on the other side. See you, Space Cowboy. Relevant comments. Comment 1, OP's grandfather is a saint. Comment 2, the sad thing is that he should have had to be as kind and good as he was. The parents were disgusting people who robbed someone of the necessary childhood experiences and felt no remorse for it. Comment 3. Yeah, I feel really bad for OP. It broke my heart when he talked about how all his toys got wrecked and no one cared. Another angle that I'm not seeing being discussed, OP's sister is being robbed too. If the parents were told she needs a caretaker, then she needs a caretaker. Maybe she would be able to make some improvements if she was working with a professional. I get that she's low functioning, but it's possible that she can sense the animosity OP was beginning to feel toward her, which is not his fault. Which could cause her to lash out more. IDK, I have a severely autistic cousin. He is verbal and doesn't need 24/7 supervision though, and he has a loving family who is always there for him. I wonder how lost he would be without that support system. OP's parents obviously don't care about their autistic daughter. If they did, they wouldn't push her off on a teenage brother who obviously isn't capable of handling that responsibility, or use her to scam their family. I just hope she will be okay. What are the parents going to do with her now that their free babysitter and money are gone? Are they going to pay for a professional caretaker themselves, or just neglect her? OP, if you see this, this is not a guilt trip, but someone in your family should keep tabs on what's going on with your sister. It sounds like she may be better off in an institution than with parents who obviously can't or aren't willing to give her the care she needs. Comment 4. I'm glad your other family is coming through for you, OP. I strongly suggest you still get a therapist to help you unpack the years of harm your parents did to you. Also, yay Grandpa, he sounds awesome. Good luck, OP. However, I would wait until you enter a college university to begin seeing a therapist. This way, 1. You will be guaranteed confidentiality as an 18-year-old, 2. You will likely be covered under a student plan that you pay for with tuition that will make therapy free, and 3. You'll have time to compose yourself when you're alone and really be able to sort out your feelings. Comment 5. I understand your predicament, for I also come from a similar situation. My older brother has autism spectrum disorder, and is on the low end of the scale. My parents, since I was about 7 years old, always stressed that I needed to take care of him and allow him to live with me once I was older, despite the 4-year age difference, alongside his physically and sexually abusive tendencies towards me, and only me, out of our family of 5. Now, I am 20 years old. Since I was 18, my parents have expected me to pay for items he desires, read for him, clean for him, Pretty much anything you could think of, despite me being a college student with many, many chronic illnesses that was being abused by him since I was 11. Despite everything he has done, I do not hate him or his disability. Rather, I hate that my parents have enforced that his abusive behavior was not morally incorrect, thus insisting to him that I was wrong and hated him for his disability. No matter how much I expressed to him that his behavior was wrong and that I did not resent his disability, as I am severely disabled myself, he never listened or corrected his behavior until I began to distance myself from him at all available chances at 19 years old. He is my brother and he needs help, but I cannot be the one to give it to him because I deserve better than the life I was provided by our parents and him. I plan on moving out very, very soon. I hope things get better for you soon, and that you are able to reconcile with your sister as you desire without parental interference. Good luck, OP. Ex-wife cheated with golden child brother and had his child. Now, my family, which has always hated me, begs for money after my promotion. My ex-wife cheated on me with my golden child brother and had his baby. Now, my family, who always despised me, is begging for money after my recent promotion. I, a 29-year-old man, divorced my 27-year-old wife 2 months ago. She had been having an affair with my estranged brother, also 27, and 4 months ago I discovered the truth when she revealed her pregnancy. She initially tried to convince me that the baby was ours, but my brother's frequent visits made me suspicious. I decided to check her phone, confronted her with the evidence, and she confessed to the affair, having no other choice. My family and I had been estranged since I left home at 18. They always treated me like an outsider, while my brother was the golden child. I vividly remember a party that was supposed to be for me, but turned out to be a celebration for my brother. When I confronted my parents about it, they told me they didn't want my brother to feel left out after my acceptance letter and that I should focus on uplifting him instead. That moment broke me and I vowed never to return to them. I put myself through college with loans and a job, then rented a small apartment with a friend after graduation. I never spoke to my parents during this time, and they didn't reach out to me either. Last year, my brother contacted me online, asking if I wanted to reconnect with him and our parents, who supposedly missed me. A lot had changed since I left home, including my marriage to my ex-wife 2 years ago. Despite my comfortable life, I hadn't moved on from my family's past treatment, so I agreed to meet them. Our initial reunion was awkward and uncomfortable, but they seemed to be making an effort to mend our relationship, so I felt obliged to reciprocate. I invited them to my home, which turned out to be my first mistake, as it introduced my brother to my ex. They met, started an affair, and she got pregnant. I was ecstatic when I initially thought the baby was mine. However, my brother's increased visits after the pregnancy announcement raised my suspicions. His behavior, like touching my wife's pregnant stomach and speaking to it, made me uncomfortable. My ex downplayed it, but I couldn't shake the suspicion that my brother had a deeper connection to the baby than he was admitting. 6 months into the pregnancy, I decided to go through her phone while she was asleep. What I found confirmed my worst fears. The text between my ex and my brother proved that the baby was actually his, and they had been together for quite some time. My ex had no intention of ever letting me know the baby wasn't mine. She and my brother planned to tell me about the affair after the baby was born, then she would divorce me and get together with my brother. They intended to live off the fortune from the child support I'd be paying. The next morning, I confronted her about the text. Although she tried to deny it at first, she eventually confessed. That marked the end of our 2-year marriage. Naturally, my parents sided with my brother and my ex. All their talk about us being equally important to them were just empty words. When my ex and my brother announced our divorce on social media and her decision to marry him, my entire family fully supported their decision. Nobody cared that they had destroyed my mental health and broken my trust. My ex had lied to me for 6 months, making me believe the baby was mine. It felt like I had lost not just my wife, but also my child, and it hurt immensely. My parents told me that this was for the best and refused to acknowledge that my brother had wronged me. They even suggested that I should be happy for my ex and brother and join the celebrations. Once again, I cut them out of my life, which complicated my divorce. My ex-wife walked away with a huge settlement sum in my car, all because my family sided with her during the divorce proceedings since she was with my brother now. She and her lawyer fabricated a story about how I was toxic and controlling, and how I had forced her to quit her job, even though it was her own choice. My family backed up their claims, saying they had cut me off because of my misogynistic attitude and temper tantrums. With the evidence stacked against me, I lost a lot of money in the divorce, but thankfully, I got to keep the house. When the divorce was finalized, I was just relieved that I was done with this mess and wouldn't have to deal with these horrible people ever again. Fortunately, there's no waiting period for a divorce where I live and my ex-wife didn't contest it, so I was able to wrap it up quickly and move on with my life. It was tough to forget everything, but I immersed myself in work and pushed myself to improve, hoping to move on from this nasty episode as quickly as possible. That paid off, as I got a promotion with a better position, higher salary, and a better company car. The works basically. I couldn't have been happier, so I decided to treat myself to a solo dinner at one of my favorite restaurants. I made the mistake of posting about it online, and within a day or two, my mother contacted me, asking me to visit them. I was baffled as to what they could possibly want from me now, given that we hadn't spoken since the divorce was finalized, and they had supported my ex and her lies. I managed to ignore her for a few days, but then she started calling me relentlessly. Eventually, when nothing else worked, she showed up at my office and refused to leave, getting into a fight with the receptionist, which was quite embarrassing. So I promised to visit in a few days, which finally convinced her to leave. A couple of days later, I finally visited my family. They had used the settlement amount to move into a bigger house to accommodate the baby, who had been born just over 3 weeks ago. I guess the alimony was also being used to pay the bills, but it didn't really bother me since the alimony was a small part of my salary at this point, and I could easily afford it. My brother wasn't home, and my ex was asleep, so it was just my parents who spoke to me. I didn't bother with any small talk and just waited for them to get to the point. After about 5 minutes of silence, my father blurted out that my brother had been fired from his job, and the alimony and settlement weren't enough anymore. They mentioned they had seen my post about the promotion and were hoping I could help them out since they were running low on money. My parents had retired a long time ago, my brother was jobless, and my ex obviously wasn't going back to work anytime soon. The alimony wasn't sufficient to cover the expenses for a family of 5, especially with a newborn in the house. I was aware of this, but I was shocked that they had the audacity to approach me for money after everything that had happened. I was so stunned that I couldn't speak for a few minutes. Finally, I came to my senses and decided I didn't need to entertain any of this. I simply got up and left without a word. As I reached the door and opened it, I found my brother standing outside. My parents were urging me to stay and listen, and my brother looked a bit alarmed to see me there. I still didn't say anything and continued to leave. It was raining heavily, and the short walk to my car parked outside their lawn left me completely drenched, worsening my already terrible mood. This is where I might have been at fault because my parents and brother followed me, and while I was looking for my keys in my pocket, they decided to ask for help one last time. This time, it was my brother who made the plea. He's always been smug and arrogant, a direct result of our parents' favoritism, so it was strange to see him asking me for help. It must have been difficult for him, so they were definitely honest about their dire situation. Anyway, I lost my cool and ended up telling them to leave me alone and that they could beg on the streets if they were that desperate for cash, since a stranger who knew nothing about them was more likely to pity their condition than I was. Having said that, I got in my car and drove away, leaving them in the rain. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty satisfying to do that to my family since they had done nothing but mistreat me my whole life. It's been a couple of days since that incident and now I'm second-guessing myself. My mother has been texting me non-stop, and I feel so guilty for not helping them out. I know I have a lot, and sending them a little money wouldn't hurt me, but after everything that's happened, it feels like I'm being used. Frankly, I decided not to help them out. It was a big deal for me since I felt terribly guilty about abandoning them, but then I realized they had been doing that to me my entire life. Even during the divorce, they threw me under the bus, so why should I hesitate to do the same to them? I told my mother to stop pestering me, or I'd be forced to get my lawyers involved, and it wouldn't end well for them. Naturally, that irked them, so my brother showed up at my house a few days ago to talk. He said he felt sorry for how I'd been treated during our childhood but couldn't help that he was inherently better than me, which is why he got preferential treatment. He also said I should stop being weird with our parents and just help them out since they're in a tough spot, instead of holding grudges like a child. I laughed in his face because of how demented he sounded. I told him that instead of trying to put me down and manipulate me into helping, he should probably be out looking for a job. That touched a nerve, and he started yelling about how I was just jealous that our parents and even my ex-wife preferred him over me, and that I was taking revenge by refusing to give them money. I didn't bother to fight back and just agreed, saying that all I was doing was getting revenge, and there wasn't much he could do about it. He got super pissed off and threatened to come after me and force me to cough up the money, saying I'd regret ever speaking to him that way. Honestly, I'm not taking any of that seriously. He can try to scare me all he wants, but it's just not going to work because I know he's not capable of doing anything to me. I'm unbothered. A few days ago my brother visited me and tried to convince me to help them, but he was unsuccessful. My parents had already tried in the past, and it didn't work out for them either. This time, my ex decided to call me up and speak to me. I was skeptical about answering, but I decided to pick up because if I didn't they'd probably visit again and waste more of my time. So I spoke to her, and it was astonishing how entitled and cruel these people could be. She started very politely, explaining that, as I already knew, she and her family were struggling with money. While she acknowledged that I had no obligation to help them after everything they'd put me through, she still wanted me to consider being the bigger person. She tried to evoke sympathy by reminding me that my parents had paid for everything while I was growing up and that she had tried her best to be a good wife. Sure, except for the part where my parents didn't care about me and always preferred my brother, and she ended up cheating on me with the same brother I used to complain about. That didn't work at all, and I told her that while I felt bad about their situation, I was already spending a lot of unnecessary money paying her alimony, which she technically didn't even deserve since she cheated on me but managed to get because my family had no problem lying and making me the villain for their gain. She started sobbing on the call and told me that I was being selfish and heartless, which was just ironic. When I still refused to help, she said my brother was right and that I'd left her no choice but to get the law involved, threatening to demand higher alimony and drag me to court to humiliate me once again. Honestly, I'd like to see them try. The first time around, I was so emotionally drained and depressed that I didn't even bother fighting back or trying to prove them wrong. I just gave in and agreed to pay the alimony without attempting to disprove their claims. I was never toxic or controlling or any of the things they claimed, so she had no reason to cheat on me and didn't deserve a single dollar from the divorce. But whatever, I didn't care back then and just wanted to get the divorce over with, regardless of the financial impact. This time though, I'm ready to fight and make sure my family learns the lesson of a lifetime. In a shocking turn of events, my ex-wife followed through and actually filed for a higher amount of alimony, citing my recent promotion. But this time, I wasn't letting things slide. I got all our mutual friends involved, explaining everything that was happening and filling them in on the past, since most of them only knew we had separated without knowing the real reason. They were obviously very shocked, and I asked if they'd testify against my ex-wife if needed. They agreed readily. I also told my lawyer that I wanted to discontinue the alimony altogether since she didn't deserve it. I spent the past few days gathering all the evidence I could find of my parents and brother being horrible people who never treated me like an equal and are now hounding me for money because of my promotion. I'd had enough and needed to get rid of these parasites once and for all, so I wasn't going to consider their feelings at all. I managed to convince some of my cousins, who had seen me treated like an outsider in my own home, to speak on my behalf, and they kindly agreed, even though we were never particularly close. My lawyer was pleased with the evidence we gathered and said we might actually be able to stop paying alimony. It was already known that she cheated on me, but the reasons she gave, painting me as the villain and my brother as the hero, were all lies. Even though I hadn't fought back the last time, I was determined to set the record straight this time, and I did. My family had nothing to say when I presented several video testimonials from friends and a couple of relatives, proving that everything my family had said was a lie and that I wasn't the person they made me out to be. They probably thought they'd be let off the hook as easily as before, but I wasn't emotionally fragile anymore. Honestly, everything they put me through made me a lot stronger. Yesterday, it was finalized that I no longer have to pay my ex any alimony, thanks to the new information that came to light. I was probably the happiest man on earth when I realized it was finally over. Seeing the smug look wiped off my family's faces and my ex on the verge of tears was incredibly satisfying. But honestly, I couldn't care less about her crying anymore. I was just done with the whole ordeal. I thought I'd go home, treat myself to some great takeout, and enjoy a movie, but of course, my family had to do everything in their power to ruin my happiness. I was only a few yards from my house when I noticed my brother's car parked right outside. Confused about why he'd be there, I still went inside, only to find my family standing outside my door, blocking my way in. I was taken aback and didn't know what to say, but decided to act unbothered and told them to get off my property or I'd call the police. That's when my dad spoke up, telling me I should be ashamed of myself for what I'd done. He lectured me about having no sense of responsibility towards my family and accused me of betrayal for not helping them when they needed it most. When he finished, I refused to engage or respond, standing there silently. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of getting a rise out of me, which I guessed was their goal, to make me so emotional that I'd eventually give up and do something rash and stupid. But I'm not an idiot, and their desperate measures weren't going to help their case, which they should have realized by then. My silence probably pissed them off even more, and despite my mother demanding that I treat my dad with respect and talk to him, I still refused to speak. I could see them getting agitated because they clearly hoped for a huge fight, but nothing of the sort was happening. After some more yelling, my brother finally snapped and grabbed me by the collar. He then tried to hit me, but my dad managed to pull him back just in time while he yelled about how I was nothing but a jealous loser who would never amount to anything. It was really funny coming from an unemployed guy still living with his parents and begging his brother for money, but okay. I told them they needed to leave or I'd actually call the cops. Given their financial situation, they should probably make a run for it within the next 5 minutes. Begrudgingly, they went away, but not before one last-ditch attempt by my mother to shame me into coughing up some money. It still didn't work and eventually, they left. It's been almost a day since that incident and they haven't tried to contact me since. I'm truly hoping it stays this way.
Before passing away, my dear friend played matchmaker, connecting me with her attractive male friend in her final days. I don't have anyone to share this story with on June 13, 2024. I made a friend named Judy, not her real name, at a writing group. She is 95 years old and I am 62 years old. I visited her at her apartment a few times, helped her with her computer, and we really hit it off. She told me that some medication she was taking was making her feel sick. When I asked what it was for, she said she was riddled with bone cancer. She published a book of poetry, and I went to her book launch party at the beginning of May. She had a friend there named Mike, not his real name, who was about my age. I found him to be a very attractive and intelligent man. I asked Judy if he was single, and she said he was. Judy had often mentioned what a wonderful person Mike was and what a great friend he had been to her. He is also a writer. I tried to flirt with him and ask him out, but he was chatting with another woman about publishing. Feeling embarrassed, I left. Yesterday, I received an email from someone in our writing group informing me that Judy had decided to end her life after having a stroke about 2 weeks ago. She had not been well for the last month. Medical assistance in dying is completely legal in Canada. I was shocked to hear this as she seemed so well and in good spirits the last time I saw her. I decided to call her to say goodbye. We had a lovely chat yesterday, and she told me she was happy with her decision to end her life this Saturday afternoon, with her family coming to be with her. We had a good conversation, and I expressed my appreciation for her friendship. I told her I believed her late husband would welcome her to the other side. It saddened me to think I would never see my friend Judy again. I thought that chapter with Judy was now closed. Just about 5 minutes ago, I received a phone call from Judy. She wanted to give me Mike's phone number and asked me to call him. Apparently, he thought I was a very nice person and wanted to know more about me. I explained that I liked him very much and found him very attractive, but felt embarrassed and left. Judy found this funny and cute. Apparently, I had made some impression on him because he mentioned me to Judy several times. She gave me his phone number and asked me to call him, thinking we would be good for each other. I said I would call him in a week or so. What a lovely gesture, playing matchmaker for 2 of her friends before she leaves this world. I have been quite lonely lately and really want a partner in my life. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, OMG, call him. So you can give her a final update before passing. What a sweet story. OP, I said I would wait to call him and she agreed that it would be best to wait about a week. But what if I did call him and things didn't go well and then I would have to tell her that before she passed? Commenter 2, girl? He asked about you. If things don't go well for some reason, I can't think of any, you can at least tell your friend you've been in contact. I'm sorry for your coming loss, your friend will no doubt be watching over you, whatever happens. Good luck. I have to go show my daughter this cute story now. You've got to update me if things go well. Update 1, posted in a separate post on June 14, 2024, the morning after the original post. She called me again this morning and asked me to come to her apartment to pick up an envelope to bring to him and ask him out for lunch and to call him later today. She said she wants to know what happens. Commenter 3. I'm so excited for you. Try to calm your nerves. Just be your lovely self that your friend admires so much. This sounds like the universe has plans for you. Commenter 4. OMG. I am loving this. Go get that man, girl. And so good on you for supporting your friend during this time. I think it is actually pretty amazing that we are getting to the point of being able to have dignity in the end, and choosing when we are ready to be done. 95 years is a long life and I hope it was just as beautiful as it sounds like Judy is. Update 2, Judy the Almost Heavenly Matchmaker. June 14, 2024, 1 day after original post, 3 hours after the mini update in the comments. Update. I have the envelope in hand and have arranged to meet him for coffee in 1 hour. Judy gave me an envelope and wants us to read it together. I am at the coffee shop waiting for him right now. She wants me to report back to her this afternoon. Relevant comments. Commenter 5. I just saw your first post, and number 1, Judy sounds like such a wonderful person. I think we all need a Judy in our lives. Number 2, I am waiting with bated breath and on the tips of my toes. This internet stranger has nothing but the best of wants and wishes for you, dear friend. I hope you and Mike are just beginning a beautiful love story. Commenter 6. This is the beginning of something so good. Commenter 7. I'm so invested. Tell us how it went. Update 3. Judy, the Almost Heavenly Matchmaker. June 14, 2024, 4 hours later. I nervously waited for Mike to arrive. He was about 5 minutes late. When he arrived, I explained to him that this meeting was not my idea and that Judy had asked me to meet him. She had called me again and asked me to bring him the envelope and open it together. He said that sounded just like her. He predicted what was going to be in the envelope. He told me that he had known her for about 10 years, whereas I had only known her for about 8 months. We talked about our lives and what we had done, including jobs, careers, marriage, divorce and kids, etc. He is a very intelligent, funny, and attractive man. We seemed to be compatible. He told me that after I met him one time at the book party, he had commented to Judy that he found me very forthright and attractive. At that book launch party, I wanted to talk to him more, but another woman monopolized his attention, talking about some kind of publishing. He apologized for talking to the other lady instead of me. He said he couldn't stand her and had tried to get away from her to chat with me more, but when he turned around, I was gone. I told him that I was embarrassed because I had asked him out and then left because I felt so embarrassed. Anyway, we had a great time at the restaurant, chatting about pretty much everything in life. He asked me if I wanted to go to dinner at a nice, fancy waterfront restaurant. He asked if I had been there before, and I said I had not. I had to leave because I had to get back to work. I asked him if he wanted to meet another time to open the envelope, and he said, "No, I want to open it right now. I want to see what she is up to." So I sat beside him, and we opened the envelope together. It was just as he had predicted, a beautiful handwritten note and a bunch of cash, $450. The note expressed her love forever and ever and said, "Please go and have a nice supper." I said that there were several nice suppers. I told him he was right about his prediction. He said he didn't want the money, and I said I didn't want it either. But if I took it back to her apartment, her son would get it tomorrow. So I said she wanted us to have it, so we should keep it. He asked me to keep it in my handbag. So we left the coffee envelope meeting, and I gave him a warm hug. He said he would call me and we would go out for dinner. As we parted, we talked a little bit about what an amazing person Judy was and how we were both going to miss her. I called Judy and told her what had transpired. She said, "I am so pleased." I told her that Mike was going to call her later this afternoon as well. Tomorrow, her family is going to be there with her when she departs this world. Relevant comments. Commenter 8. Judy is definitely an amazing person. May we all find Judy in our lifetimes. Most valuable person and rest in peace. Commenter 9. Wow, OP, Judy is really something beyond amazing. She will be missed. It's like karma brought you two together. Best wishes. OP, thanks. I hope it turns into something good, and if it doesn't, I have definitely made a new friend in Mike. Update 4, Judy the Now in Heaven Matchmaker, June 16, 2024, 3 days from original post. Judy transcended yesterday. Mike and I have talked on the phone a few times a day since we met on Friday and opened the envelope, and we also have been texting. Seems like we really have clicked. I am kind of astonished at this whole situation. Today, Sunday, we are going to an IMAX movie together this afternoon. I invited him to go with me to my regular weekly pub afternoon with my friends. He said he would love to join us. We are both open to seeing where this goes. Relevant comments. Commenter 10, I'm so happy for you. It's so nice to read a story like this on Reddit. Still crying for Judy. Commenter 11, GNU Judy original poster. What does GNU mean? I asked the internet and it said a Linux operating system. Commenter 12, celebrated author Sir Terry Pratchett's Discworld novel, Going Postal, tells of the creation of an internet-like system of communication towers called the Clacks. When John Dearhart, the son of its inventor, is murdered, a piece of code is written called GNU John Dearhart, to echo his name up and down the lines. G means that the message must be passed on, N means not logged, and U means the message should be turned around at the end of a line. This was also a real-world tech joke. GNU is a free operating system, and its name stands, with a recursive geek humor, for GNU's not Unix. The code causes Dearhart's name to be repeated indefinitely throughout the system because a man is not dead while his name is still spoken. Fans of his often use GNU names as a way to honor not only Sir Terry but lost loved ones of their own. It is a way to keep their name alive. From what you wrote about her, it is clear Judy was someone who should be remembered. Update 5. Judy the Heavenly Matchmaker. June 22, 2024, 9 days from original post. Just thought you guys might want to know how things are going. Yesterday marked 1 full week since we opened the envelope. A lot has happened. We have been seeing each other every other day, and last night Mike came over to my house and things were said and done that made it clear that we are now an item. We actually have a lot in common and really enjoy each other's company. I am rather mind-blown by how my life has turned around into something new in the past week. I was pretty bored and lonely and quite sad. Now I feel happy and invigorated. I am ever so grateful that Judy came into my life and sent me Mike. Relevant comments. Commenter 13. Great update. You never know what life has planned for us. Keep on updating us. Editor's note, things are off to a good start with OP's budding relationship with Mike. Hopefully, she will give us further updates down the road. The last few comments in the post summarize parts of the above story. First, in Judaism, we do not say REP or rest in peace. We say Zet or Zichrono Livracha. which translates to, may their memory be a blessing. I always felt that Gia Nu mirrors that sentiment, and while I do not know Westworld, you live as long as the last person who remembers you is an amazing and accurate phrase in the same vein. Second, it is even more amazing when you consider it is said by a robot that brought himself to sentience after he realized that all his fellow robots were having their memories wiped, reset, or they were being replaced by other units. So he made a commitment to remember them, for those who had loved them. Like I said, an absolute gut punch. The episode Kiksuya, which is performed largely in Lakota, is one of the best episodes of television I've seen in any show. You think it is a bottle episode because it is about a fringe character, and it turns out to be an anchor to it all. Commenter 14, Judy sounds like the best kind of person. I hope her passing was peaceful and she was surrounded by love. I hope this is not overstepping, but given her love of writing, is there a significance to the date she chose? It is Bloomsday from Ulysses. I thought that was a sweet coincidence for a book lover. Although maybe it was not a coincidence. Best of luck to you and Mike, and I hope you continue to be very happy. Commenter 15. For anyone who is in doubt about reading it, this is pretty much the saddest, most heart-wrenching story on all of Reddit, and I'm not exaggerating. It is the kind of story that appears in nearly every thread about sad stories, and for good reason. Commenter 16. I want to believe and hope that their ages, life experiences, and the light-hearted nature surrounding Judy's passing would prevent them from feeling any undue pressure. It did not seem like the original poster viewed this as some final wish of Judy's, but rather just a friend trying to play matchmaker during what happened to be the final chapter of her life. It's clear that Judy's intentions were to bring some joy and companionship to her friends, and it's heartwarming to see such efforts. Regardless of how things turn out, I am rooting for them and wish them all the best in finding happiness together. Commenter 17. I am so glad this was the last unread best of Redditor updates that I had. I never stop after the palate cleansers, even when knowing full well that I should. Thank you to the gods of best of Redditor updates. I am so glad that Judy got to choose how and when she wanted to go, got to do one last bit of matchmaking, and is now on the other side with her loved ones. May we all be so fortunate, cancer aside of course. Am I the A for feeling upset that my sister-in-law's terminal cancer diagnosis is overshadowing my upcoming wedding celebration and causing family tension? Original post, June 22, 2024. I don't intend for the title to be so harsh sounding, but I don't know how else to put it. I'll also sound blunt, but I'm just posting the facts as presented. I'm marrying my partner, Alice, who is from another country. Her sister, Beth, is dying of cancer. It is heartbreaking. She is a young mother and wife. Her diagnosis was about 4 years ago. When she was first diagnosed, she was given 2 years. Since we were in a different country, as she, Beth, remained in her home country with her family after her sister, Alice, immigrated, we saved up some money and traveled to say goodbye to her. It was about the 1.5-year mark when we went to say goodbye, and we had gotten engaged soon beforehand. So we also went over to visit some of the family and asked them how long they needed to save to come across for our wedding, as our dollar is much stronger than theirs. They said 2 years, so that was agreed. We spent a month with her, laughing, lamenting, spending as much quality time as possible with her. By the end of the trip though, and with the chemo, she was exhausted. We said our heartbreaking goodbyes assuming to never see her again. And then she made a miraculous recovery, with a less than 1% chance of happening, which was awesome. We, along with her other family members who had also immigrated, such as her father and brother, decided to put money together and support her to move over here to spend the rest of her life with us. That was about a year ago. Now my partner and I are getting married in 2 weeks. All of her family are coming to visit. It's a big joyous occasion with lots of travel. We've forked out thousands to help her family get here, and they're all staying for a month or so to celebrate our wedding and spend time with us. 2 weeks ago Beth got a bad diagnosis. They found lumps, and they said she has about a year left to live. She, for obvious reasons, didn't handle this well, and lashed out at us and our wedding, telling us not to talk about it around her. My partner has always kind of lived in her older sister's shadow, so she was really excited to be celebrated and made a fuss for once. But Beth has told everyone about her diagnosis and has started saying this is the last time I will see most of you. Now the focus is completely off my partner and our wedding, and is absolutely about Beth. I feel heartless and heartbroken, but I'm frustrated by this. She has been going out of her way to make sure the people who are coming across, who we have paid thousands for flights, not that it matters that much, are spending as much time with her as possible, as this is the last time she will see them. Now this period of joy and celebration has an undeniable black cloud hung over it, and people very obviously have stopped making my partner feel special. On top of this, Beth has maintained her stance that we not talk about our wedding around her. But the big issue is that Beth got married during COVID, so never got a father-daughter dance. She wants to have one at our wedding, after my partner has a father-daughter dance, with her own song which, to be honest, sad as fuck. I have said no because my partner wanted to say no but felt too guilty, so I had to be the bad guy. I also told my partner that if we're not to talk about our wedding around her sister, then I don't want her sister talking about her dying around us. Now I'm being called an asshole. I do absolutely feel like one, but I also feel like this is grossly unfair to ask us to brush our wedding under the carpet because of this. Am I the A? Edit, sorry I just woke up and will work through the many comments as fast as I can. I really appreciate all the views and discussions, that's precisely why I came here. Genuinely, thank you. Am I the asshole has no consensus bot, OP was not the A. Relevant comments. A user questioned whether Beth truly has cancer again, suggesting she might not be truthful. OP responded, admitting, "You're right, I'm really struggling with this thought, but if she makes another miraculous recovery, I'm going to feel like a massive dick. Because everyone will be celebrating, and to be honest, I'll be furious, jaded and distrusting. My father is a very distrusting man, and he raised this exact same point, saying he's not sure he believes the diagnosis is as bad as she's saying it is. But we'll see, in the worst possible way." Another user commented on Beth's behavior, saying, if true and she was given a year to live, she could give her sister that one day and stay quiet. But no, she makes it about herself. Her missed dance, her missed whatever, and ruins the day for you guys that way, assuming she's telling the truth. I get weird vibes. If I were you, I'd go to the courthouse, elope without telling anyone, cancel the celebration and have one way later. OP replied, we considered this. My partner had a breakdown over it and said she wanted to do this. I asked her if she was sure, we had a conversation, and she changed her mind. We've done too much, prepared too much, gotten too excited for the whole thing to just pull the plug. When asked about the type of cancer his sister-in-law has and if it was confirmed by a doctor, OP stated, lymphoma, stage 4. No, we've only heard from her. Update, July 8, 2024. People asking for updates about my post. A couple of weeks ago. The lead up to the wedding was a bit nightmarish. Sister-in-law tried to tell someone they couldn't come to the wedding because of something they said. They told sister-in-law she could only afford a really nice new car because she and her partner are staying with her dad, and he's paying all her medical bills. We curbed that by changing our seating plan last minute, asking the person to come, and he still came thankfully. Then the plan was to go up to the town the wedding was in for a few days for my wife to spend time with her family. We paid for her little brother and little cousin's accommodation because they couldn't afford it. Week of the wedding, the sister-in-law convinces both little brother and cousin to only travel up for only the wedding, not to stay with family. Sister-in-law wasn't traveling up because of some vague and changing reason. There was a fight on their family's side, it supposedly got resolved and sister-in-law got given the hard word. But then little cousin didn't come up with family and stayed home with sister-in-law. So I told my partner to directly pass this on to sister-in-law. I was in different accommodation for the lead up. If there is a medical event, I'll call and cover cost for an ambulance at the smallest hiccup. If she plays up, her husband will take her home immediately and without argument, or myself and the other 2 ex-bouncer groomsmen will kick them out. If her family don't want this to happen, then they will get this sorted before I do because they've disappointed me with their soft approach, and now they've all been warned. And then the day went off without a hitch. It was beautiful, perfect, happy, fun, and everything we wanted it to be. No drama, no major issues, and my new wife loved every moment. She was spoiled and made to feel special. Thank you for all the suggestions and kind words. We assigned mother-in-law to sister-in-law for the day. There was almost a hiccup when sister-in-law's uncle reversed her brand new car into my ring-bearer's car and sister-in-law started firing up. But it was curbed. A beautiful day because of your guys' support, so truly thank you. Relevant comments. One commenter asked for more information. Did your sister-in-law and father-in-law dance? If so, what song? OP replied, they danced when the dance floor opened up to everyone, and they were happy with that. It was a happy song though. Another commenter noted, I personally didn't question it, but reading the other comments, I feel obligated to ask. Did you get confirmation that either diagnosis was real? OP responded, we have confirmation of the diagnosis but not the severity. The cancer has returned though, but we're not sure how bad yet. Am I the asshole for completely cutting off my dying sister-in-law and telling her family not to contact me? July 13, 2024. I'm the same person who had the wedding dramas. While the wedding went off without a hitch, we've had a major problem since, Feels like season 2 of a frigging soap opera. I'm sorry this is a little long, but there's a lot of context. My sister-in-law is dying of cancer. Recently my partner and I got married and sister-in-law made the whole process as difficult as possible. While we were visiting family the other day, I was relaxing on a couch which sits below a ledge in a lounge, so you couldn't see me from the dining room. I was there with my wife, and wife's family, but older sister-in-law didn't realize I had come with. My partner and her little sister, not the same sister-in-law, came into the dining area in tears and sat down next to their mom. Before they could say anything, older sister-in-law came in and talked to them with a venom I had never seen. She was shouting at them, and talking to them like they were children, telling them to never dare walk away from her again during an argument. There was a viciousness at a level that I'd never tolerate being spoken to like, from anyone. The argument happened because we had come to pick up the nephew, son of older sister-in-law, from school so that sister-in-law could rest. I'll give more info on this fight in comment. Older sister-in-law told her family it's a privilege for them to babysit her child, and that if they're going to try and help then they need to do it how she asks, when she asks. She spoke to my wife like she was scum several levels below her. When I stood up, and older sister-in-law saw me, she jumped with shock and then immediately stormed out of the room. I stood up and said, "We're leaving." In the car I said to my wife that if sister-in-law ever spoke to her like that again there would be harsh, firm boundaries put in place. Later we received a message from sister-in-law's husband saying we were being selfish and making the whole family visit about us and our wedding, which was what it was originally about when everyone planned to come. They were visiting for our wedding. The problem is that this has been happening for months, and I feel like an idiot because when my wife told me about it she downplayed it. Sister-in-law's family all keep saying, "She's dying, it's affecting her mind," or, "Let's just move past it so we can enjoy the time we have left with her." And sister-in-law's treatment of my wife has gotten worse, and worse, and worse. Sister-in-law keeps trying to convince people not to spend time with us while they're here. She exempts herself from family plans and then makes new plans excluding my wife, and tells people my wife is being greedy with others' company. My wife came home yesterday in tears saying she had considered driving her car off a bridge because of how much sister-in-law had broken her heart. My wife went to say goodbye to one of her uncles who was flying out, and sister-in-law apparently did the same thing as the day before but worse, according to a couple of the witnessing family members. I had to hold her while she sobbed uncontrollably for 15 minutes, asking me why her sister was doing this to her when all she had done was try to love her. This is the part that may make me an asshole. I put a message into the group chat I'm in with her immediate family saying, to cut a long story short, I will not talk to any of you until you start to hold sister-in-law accountable for her actions. Any promises of unifying our families was a lie until sister-in-law apologizes and shows she's going to cut this shit out, that my wife's unrelenting kindness is being exploited for weakness, that my wife is psychologically unsafe around her own family, that I swore in my vows to protect my wife, and that I have no interest in being a part of a family who treat each other like this. I said I'd be leaving the conversation. I don't want anyone to contact me unless it's to apologize to my partner and explain how things will be different moving forward, and not to add me into any group conversations. I blocked any form of contact access that sister-in-law had. My wife didn't want me to send the message because she didn't want to make things worse. I told her things were being made worse by her family's unwillingness to call out sister-in-law because she's dying, and my partner told me I can do what I feel I need to do but her family will be upset with me. Now they've called a family meeting, and I've refused to go until my wife is apologized to and the family outright promises to hold her sister accountable. Her family are all very upset at me for saying what I said about our two families joining, and that I'm being harsh to sister-in-law who is dying. My own family think I'm being too harsh, except my dad and older brother who think I'm making the right choice. Am I the asshole? Additional information from OP regarding the first fight. OP. For the interested, the context for the first fight. Sister-in-law asked us the night before to pick up our nephew from daycare so that she could rest for the day. We told her we couldn't as we had plans to show family who were visiting some of the sites of our city. But we were actually done a lot earlier than we thought we would be, so we tried to call sister-in-law or her hubby. Both weren't answering, so we went to sister-in-law's house to check and see if she still wanted us to take him. She lost her shit saying that if we want to help her it's on her terms, that we should consider any time we spend with her son to be a privilege, and that we weren't to disturb her unless we knew she was open to us visiting. This was all said when she didn't realize I was there and I deeply regret saying nothing at the time. I had hoped the family would put her in her place. Relevant comments. One commenter asked if it was possible that the cancer had spread to her brain, as it can drastically alter a person's behavior. OP responded, acknowledging that this was indeed possible and that he struggled with the thought. He empathized with the fact that his sister-in-law was dying while his wife was just starting her life, but he felt a strong protectiveness for his wife. Another user shared a personal story about their mother, who started to slip mentally before being diagnosed with cancer. She became paranoid, aggressive, scared and delusional. Initially, doctors thought it was early-onset dementia or schizophrenia. Eventually, a specialist suggested testing for cancer, which revealed the diagnosis, but it was too late. The medication she was on exacerbated her mood swings, and once adjusted, she returned to her normal self, but only had a few months left. The commenter expressed how these mental breaks soured their relationship as there was no time to repair it before she passed. They added that, based on OP's story, they believed the sister-in-law might just be a diva. Relating to this, another user shared their experience with their nanny, mother's mother, who lived with them and had several mini-strokes. She needed surgery that left her with a colostomy bag and experienced cognitive decline, becoming incredibly mean. This behavior, possibly understandable due to her pain and dependency on others, was particularly vicious toward the commenter's mother. The commenter recalled feeling helpless as a teenager and expressed sadness that the negative memories overshadowed the good ones. Another individual who worked in home health shared their experience with dementia patients. They recounted how their oldest patient, initially alert and sweet, developed violent delusions and mood swings as his condition worsened. The commenter learned to manage his agitation by existing in his reality, such as pretending the power was out when he wanted specific lights on and off. This approach helped reduce his anger. Finally, a user noted the openness of discussing such issues in recent years, crediting celebrities for being remarkably open about their diagnoses. This openness has made others comfortable with having similar conversations.
Am I the asshole for feeling suspicious after finding condoms in my boyfriend's toiletry bag? This morning, I was helping my 25 boyfriend, 23, get ready for work. He asked me to grab his toothbrush and toothpaste out of his toiletry bag. He has one of those electric toothbrushes with the detachable head and I couldn't find the head. So I opened up another pocket to look for it. I found condoms, a lot of them. He was given this toiletry bag for Christmas before he left on a 3-month trip to visit family in Europe. He acted surprised, like he didn't know they were in there and took them out immediately. He acted like he didn't know that pocket existed. I'd give him the benefit of the doubt, but at some point these condoms were packed in his bag over the past 6 months. We've been together for 2 years. The worst part is they're latex condoms. I'm allergic to latex. We only use non-latex condoms, in addition to my birth control. AIO for feeling suspicious about this. I feel like I'm going crazy. Update, I've seen the comments and I'm kind of freaking out. I'm messaging my therapist right now to figure out the best path forward. I was there at Christmas when he was given the bag. It was at his best friend's family house, so part of me is hoping that his best friend put them in there not knowing I'm allergic to latex. We haven't been intimate as much lately. Maybe once in the past 2 months. I've been really scared that he's not attracted to me anymore, because that's what most people say on here is the reason for someone's sex drive changing so drastically. He asked to move in with me when he came back from his trip and I said yes, so now I feel really trapped, like what if he's been cheating this whole time he's been living with me? He shares his location, but that doesn't really mean anything. I'm here all the time. I've seen the stories of how people cheat even when sharing their location. I wish I hadn't seen anything and I don't know anything he could say to make me feel more secure. Someone said I shouldn't have asked so I could snoop and find out for sure, but I don't want to have to snoop through my partner's belongings to find proof of them cheating on me. A relationship without trust is dead. We're supposed to talk later and I'll update afterwards. Everyone is so sure he's cheating and I really hope he's not, because I don't think I'll be able to handle it if he is. I'm already struggling with my mental health as is. Additional information from OP on why she was in therapy. OP, I'm in therapy because I have CPTSD. I am a survivor of attempted murder at the hands of my biological father, sexual assault and abuse. I am in therapy because my diagnosis is something I will have to live with for the remainder of my life, because I have experienced severe trauma, and because I have no intention of letting it ruin my life and relationships with those I love. I'm also not the one turning down sex. I'm the one that's been attempting to initiate. I messaged my therapist because I have a tendency to push people away to protect myself as a result of my history with abuse. My therapist warned me at the start of this current relationship about self-sabotage and reading too much into things. I texted her because I was unsure of whether or not I'm overreacting, because sometimes, like any other human, I need advice. I came on here while I was waiting for her to respond. I don't expect people on Reddit to be informed on the details of my life and relationship to be able to have the full picture. Thank you for the diagnosis, assumptions, and empathy. Update 1. I definitely was not expecting to see over 1,000 comments on my post. This update is long to address everyone's concerns in the previous post. Thank you to the people who sent me kind messages to check on me. I'm not sure what the people who sent me messages trying to fuck me were expecting aside from getting blocked. That being said, I did have a conversation with my boyfriend last night. I was always planning on having an in-depth conversation about what I had found, but there was nothing I could do about it while he was at work. I texted my therapist because I could tell I was starting to spiral, and posted on here while I was waiting for her response, which I think was a mistake, if I'm being honest. Although the majority of the comments were supportive, it's impossible for y'all to have as full of a picture as my therapist does, and I should have just waited for her to respond to me instead of coming on here. The massive amount of comments was very overwhelming. However, I do think that posting did help me feel more secure in thinking it was suspicious and enabled me to be more assertive when we talked. I appreciate all the comments telling me I was not overreacting. He never said I was, but his nonchalant response certainly made me feel that way. I appreciate the thought-out comments encouraging me to have a conversation with him and giving me genuine advice for it. The second conversation went better. I didn't accuse him of anything. I pretty much just said that finding non-latex condoms in addition to the lack of intimacy I'd been receiving was making me feel confused and upset. I asked him where the condoms came from. His older brother gave them to him while he was in Europe. To prevent confusion, I'm going to use fake names from here on out. My boyfriend is Theo. His oldest brother is Alvin. His other brother is Simon. Yes, like the Chipmunks. I couldn't think of other names for 3 brothers. Sorry. Theo hadn't met his mother's side of the family, including his mother, grandmother, aunt and older siblings, until his trip. The entire purpose was to get to know his family. He spent half with his aunt, grandma, brothers, and cousin in Spain. The other half of the trip he spent with his mother in the middle of nowhere in Portugal helping her open a kiosk. It was not a sightseeing trip. He didn't get to see any big monuments or go to major cities. I was not able to come because I'm in school and work full time, and it wasn't worth it for me to just come for a week during the spring break. I also thought it was important for him to enjoy his one-on-one time with his mom since he was separated from her when he was an infant. His brothers are very different people. Simon seems well adjusted with a long-term girlfriend. He spent a lot of time with Simon and his girlfriend, who was the only one there fluent in English and helped him translate when his Spanish fell short. His oldest brother, the 30-year-old who gave him the condoms, Alvin, has been in and out of prison for a majority of his life. I guess Spain has some weird laws around squatting, so whenever he gets out of prison the dude just claims abandoned property and fixes it up to live in, because I guess the government would have to provide him housing if they kicked him out. Anyways. While Theo was on the trip, he called and texted me every day. He told me about Alvin obnoxiously catcalling girls when they'd all walk down the street, and how Alvin had tried to get both him and Simon to go to an orgy with him despite both of them having girlfriends. Theo was very clear about having a girlfriend. He carries around a picture of me in his wallet, and his aunt said he talked about me a lot while he was there. Despite this, Alvin was very pushy with him about how he should be fucking a bunch of women while he was there and having fun. I remember this from when Theo was there. He found it really annoying. So did Simon. I guess during one of those conversations, Alvin straight up gave Theo a bunch of condoms to use to cheat on me. Side note, I counted them based on a comment someone left about how many are typically in a pack. They're all still there, I think. There's 8. I don't know how many come in the packs in Spain. Theo hid them in his bag. He said he would have left them there, but his aunt cleaned his room regularly and he didn't want the drama of his other family members seeing. Once he got back, he forgot they were in there. He only uses his toiletry bag when he goes to the gym. We went out together with our friends Saturday night after his shift and stopped at the gym on the way downtown so he could shower and freshen up. Otherwise his toothbrush is in our bathroom. He's not living out of a suitcase, he's fully moved in. I do see how some commenters saw the existence of the toiletry bag as a red flag when we lived together. So I wanted to clear that up. I did ask him why he accepted the condoms. He said he had zero intention of using them, and that he accepted them because Alvin wouldn't listen to anything Theo said about me and that he left him alone after that. Theo didn't even say goodbye to him when he left. He tried to spend as little time with Alvin as possible, despite him constantly inviting both Theo and Simon over to his abandoned house. Simon grew up with Alvin, but still seemed pretty content about avoiding him when I asked about it while Theo was there. I guess he's just not a good person, so the rest of the family avoids him when possible. So that's it. My boyfriend didn't cheat on me. The condoms came from his older brother. I believe him. He was very straightforward with his answers, and was more concerned with my well-being when he came home and saw how upset I was. He wasn't defensive at all. He listened to me without interrupting. He told me he loves me and that he has zero desire to cheat on me. He also works 2 jobs, shares his location, and usually is at home if he's not at work or the occasional gym visit. He doesn't have the time to see other women, and if he does have spare time, he spends it with me or his friends, who are also my friends. He does have friends separate from our friend group at work, but he invites me to come along when they've gone out or asks me to join them when they play Overwatch after work. I love him. I believe him, and I'm moving past this. That doesn't mean I'll let any additional red flags slide if they pop up though. As many of you said, I'm still young and have my whole life ahead of me. If things get worse, I know I'll be okay by myself. I love him and I want him in my life, but my happiness doesn't depend on his presence. I have a therapy session tomorrow, and I've had a lot of time to think. In hindsight, I think what made me spiral the most was that if he really did cheat on me, I'd be living with a stranger. I've had so much trust built up towards him, so I view him as this person who would never hurt me intentionally or yell at me or cheat on me. If he was capable of cheating on me, he could be capable of those other things too. That was really scary to think about and made me spiral. The massive amount of comments where everyone was so convinced he was a terrible person and that I'd been fooled also did not help. I felt like I had no idea how he would react towards me if it was true, and I was very, very scared. As soon as he came home, I felt very silly for feeling that way. He's nothing like my ex. He's never given me a reason to be afraid of him. I shouldn't have let comments on the internet freak me out so bad, and I definitely need to take some time away from Reddit. I hope I addressed all the questions concerns in the comments. Thank you for all your help. Thank you for listening. For the commenters who had questions regarding our sex life and relationship in general. When he first came back from his trip and moved in, things were normal and we both had high sex drives. Things started slowing down pretty drastically over the past couple of months. We've talked about it prior to me finding the condoms. We both acknowledge that it's an issue and that we're at an age where our sexual activity should be at its peak. He says he doesn't know what's wrong. He's embarrassed because he's attracted to me and doesn't understand how he can have a gorgeous girlfriend and lose his sex drive. His words, not mine. He has an appointment next week to get his hormones checked and has been looking into getting a therapist of his own in case the issue is mental and not physical. It's still difficult to not feel insecure when I try initiating and he's not in the mood, but he still makes an effort to show affection in other ways. Our current level of intimacy isn't ideal, but I don't think it's a lost cause as long as we're working towards a solution together. We have date nights every week. I'm very supportive of him spending time with his friends and he does the same for me. We live together, but no one is clingy or codependent. We do check in with each other to see how we're feeling about the living situation since it is somewhat new and we're still figuring out how to divide and conquer with household tasks. I'm a full-time student and I work full-time. He works 2 jobs. We both contribute equally, and do our best to make time for ourselves and each other despite our busy schedules. I have 14 credits this summer and barely exist outside of work and school, lol. For the commenters who had some things to say about me having a therapist or mental health issues. I try my best to ensure that I am my main support system. I've been in the position before of being someone's emotional punching bag due to their mental illness, and I would never ever put someone I love in that position. I'm in therapy because I have experienced an extreme amount of trauma and don't want my CPTSD to impact my life and relationships in a negative way. I grew up with a mom with severe anxiety, and most likely undiagnosed PTSD, related to the trauma both of us experienced at the hands of my biological father. She doesn't believe in therapy. I had to call 911 several times as a small child because of her panic attacks. I love my mom, and our relationship has come a long way, but the last thing I would want when I have children is for me to be an unstable parental figure. My usage of therapy doesn't warrant me staying single. My therapist has been very encouraging of this relationship since my boyfriend asked me out 2 years ago. I had gotten out of an incredibly abusive and toxic relationship the year prior, and had zero intention of getting into another serious relationship anytime soon. I was thriving and my therapist thought I was ready, but I told my boyfriend that I needed to focus on myself. We took things slow. He was respectful and patient every step of the way until I was ready. He has never raised his voice at me or even cussed at me. He is a very caring partner. I think his love language is based on quality time and acts of service. He's not great with words, but he tries. He can be a bit emotionally distant at times and not know exactly what to say when I'm upset, but that doesn't prevent him from being there and giving me a hug when I need it. We've been going through a rough patch with our intimacy, and when I was off my meds I felt like he, and everyone else in my life, viewed me as a burden despite him telling me he'd be there for me and for me to just ask for whatever I needed. He's told me many times that he's still attracted to me and that it has nothing to do with me, but when I was feeling low I kind of let my past trauma impact how I felt about myself. Being repeatedly sexually assaulted kind of made me feel like my worth is based on my sexuality, so having a boyfriend who isn't all over me anymore made me feel like there was something wrong with me. Like if I'm trying to initiate and am available and the person who loves me doesn't want it. But someone else was willing to violently take it from me when I didn't want it, what does that say about me? I know that's not rational and I've talked a lot about it in therapy, but it is something that I struggle with sometimes. I posted on here during a low time with my depression because I needed to vent and didn't want to burden anyone I knew with my irrational negativity. Depression is weird, especially after years of therapy. When I'm at my lowest, the intrusive thoughts are overwhelming, but deep down I know they're irrational and that they'll eventually pass, even if it doesn't feel like it on the surface level. I know some of the things I said then were concerning, but I really wasn't in any danger. There's a lot of things I want to accomplish in my life and I know I'm capable of them even if it does feel hopeless sometimes. I know I have people in my life who love me, I just have a hard time reaching out for help when I need it and need to be better at letting people be there for me. My mom raised me to be really self-sufficient, and she's also got a lot on her plate with my dad being sick, so I don't want to bother her and make her spiral more than she already is. I've been set back a lot with my education because of all the stuff I've been going through, but I know I have a bright future and that I should be proud of myself for making it this far. I am back on medication and am increasing the frequency of my therapy appointments from once a month to every other week. I was doing well before I went off my meds, so I'm doing my best to get back on track. Sorry for rambling. I know I don't owe anyone an explanation of my mental health here, but I know some people were worried. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay, with or without my boyfriend. My mental illness does not prevent me from being a loving and supportive friend and partner. Using therapy doesn't make me a weak person incapable of standing up for myself and making decisions. Update 2. I'm low-key regretting posting an update at all. I don't know why the opinions of strangers bother me, but it's kind of annoying that so many people didn't read the entire thing and just said I wrote all that to convince myself. I wrote that a full 24 hours after I had my conversation with him and debated posting anything at all because I figured people would be convinced he cheated regardless of anything I had to say. It's detailed because so many people had different things to say about different parts of my original post. I thought if I just posted his brother gave him the condoms, people would say that was a vague answer. Of course it feels like a complex story to someone who never heard about his trip, but the only thing I didn't already know was that his brother had given him condoms. His trip was a shit show. He was on the phone with me every single day telling me about it and fell asleep on the phone with me 99% of the time. He wasn't going out at night, he wasn't partying. Half his trip he spent with his estranged mother and her crazy racist abusive boyfriend who kept accusing him of stealing and saying wild shit about how he couldn't believe my boyfriend would sleep with an *****er like me. I had to talk him down on the phone to keep him from freaking out and endangering himself because he had no way of getting home if his mom's boyfriend kicked him out. He already got abandoned in a random town in Portugal by them for like a full day and a half at one point. I'm not surprised the condom slipped his mind. If he hadn't maintained constant communication with me while he was there, I'd be more suspicious. If he hadn't told me about all the other crazy shit his brother pulled while he was there, I'd be more suspicious. If he had gotten defensive at all, I'd be suspicious. He didn't lie to me. He didn't know they were there. The bag has 1,000,000 pockets and he only really uses one of them. The pocket seemed empty from the outside. He forgot he stashed them there. People seem so sure that I'm this naive, spineless person when I'm not. If you'd read what I said about my mental health, you would know I already have a tendency to be hyper-vigilant about red flags and be avoidant to protect myself. I don't like being vulnerable. I don't like depending on other people. I mentioned my boyfriend never yelling or cursing because I've quite literally never witnessed him get angry. The most upset I've seen him was when he was trying to defend me while he was in Europe. He's probably the most calm, stoic person I've ever met. I love that about him. I love him. I trust him. Also, his last serious relationship ended with him catching his ex in the act of cheating on him. She had mental health issues and responded to being caught by attempting to kill herself by walking into traffic. I know some internet troll is going to say that's another far-fetched story, but I know it's true. His best friend's mom, who is basically also his mom, pulled me aside when she met me and told me that she was glad he found someone that makes him so happy after everything he went through with her. I don't think he would cheat on me after going through something like that. He's a really good person. He's fully capable of being a support system for me. I just was afraid to let him because I didn't want him to feel like he had to worry about me or take care of me the way he did with her. That's not healthy though. I'm trying to be better at trusting people when they say that they want to be there for me, and that includes him. We met at school. He sat behind me in class so he couldn't even really see me. When I asked him later what most attracted him to me, he said that I was well-spoken. My appearance was just a bonus. I don't want to sound conceited, but there is rarely a time when I'm in public and I'm not approached by someone who wants to catcall me, compliment me, or ask me out. I was almost kidnapped twice as a teenager. I hate being approached. I hate being asked out. I turned down every other person that approached me at school trying to hook up or ask me out. But when he did it, he was so nervous and respectful and he felt different somehow, and so I said yes. On our very first date, he took me to an art museum. We went to an amusement park after that. He followed that up with a picnic under the stars where we spoke for at least 5 or 6 hours about our lives and what we wanted in the future. It felt scary at the time because it was the best date I'd ever been on in my life and I didn't think I was ready for anything serious, and he came along and made me feel so comfortable and at ease. We both come from emotionally volatile parents and are trying to do our best not to become them. We connected right away, but I still wanted to take things slow. It took 6 months before I was ready to make things official. During that time, he made it clear that I was the only one he was interested in. He detailed my car multiple times, brought me flowers, got my cat little holiday-themed bandanas. He bought me vinyls of albums that he noticed I listened to in the car. He did all of this without expecting anything in return, and still does these things to this day. He's trying to learn how to braid so we don't have to get my hair done anymore. When he moved in, he organized my whole closet without me asking because he remembered me complaining about it and wanted to take something off my plate. He saw I've been wanting a Gustav Westman mirror for a while and built me one. With his hands. Took me to Home Depot and let me pick out the color I wanted for it and everything. He treats me like a queen. The only rough patch in our relationship has been over the past couple of months when our intimacy decreased, but I have faith things will get better. Finding those condoms freaked me out, but I'm over it now. It's been resolved. If you can't see the value he adds to my life, that's your problem. I'm happy. I'm not responding to any more comments about it. I appreciate everyone that was supportive and recognize the effort I've put into my emotional regulation. I'm going to take a break from Reddit and enjoy the life I have. Am I the asshole for criticizing the name my cousin picked out for her baby and ruining her excitement? My cousin Stephanie and I are really more friends than relatives. An important note is that she's not really online much, so can be out of the loop on certain memes and jokes in internet culture, and TBH, doesn't really understand the concept of viral internet references or how they work. Stephanie is pregnant and just found out it's going to be a girl. About a week ago she told a gathering of her best girlfriends that she's going to name her daughter Karen. The room instantly went cold, but after an awkward silence, everyone else politely said it was lovely. I couldn't bring myself to respond at all. Later in the evening, when Stephanie was out of the room, everyone was immediately like, OMG, that poor kid, and why would she pick Karen of all names? I was uncomfortable with this conversation, given that everyone had been so positive about the name to her face. I thought more about it over the next couple of days, and just felt really weird about the whole thing. The name is really loaded, to the point it could be detrimental to the baby, and Stephanie had no idea of the connotations to make an informed decision. So a couple of days later, I tentatively brought it up. I told her I was so excited for the baby, and just wanted her to have all available information when picking a name. I then started to explain that Karen has some negative connotations and has become sort of an internet joke to describe a specific kind of entitled middle-aged woman. Stephanie instantly was furious and started talking over me, saying, "Why are you saying this? This is so mean." I was really surprised by her reaction. It felt very, very out of character, so I immediately stopped and said, "I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, I just wanted to tell you something I thought you might not know." She replied, "That's the name I picked for my daughter. And you think I picked it as some kind of joke? I don't understand why you'd say something so hurtful." When she said that, I felt like it signaled that she didn't really understand what I was trying to tell her, so after agonizing for a second about whether to press the issue even though she was so angry, I felt like in for a penny. In for a pound. And since she was already mad, I wanted her to at least understand what I was trying to explain to her. I googled Karen Know Your Meme on my phone and tried to show her the screen of results while saying, "Look, I'm just saying that there's more meaning to the name than you may realize." She stood up, pushed my phone away and shouted, "Wow." She then stormed out of my home and drove away. My aunt and mom have been berating me all week, because Stephanie told them that I made fun of her baby name. Stephanie has not spoken to me or responded to my text since. I can take a hint and I'm not going to broach a topic again that caused so much distress, but I keep going back and forth on whether I was TA here by bringing it up in the first place. Note, in the original post, OOP was overwhelmingly given a YTA judgment in response to this post. Edit. Thanks everyone. I have been properly schooled, and I accept my judgment that I was TA here. Stephanie and I have a history of being extremely open and honest with each other. I was the maid of honor in her wedding, which we planned on being the case from a young age, and we always joked as teenagers that part of my duties would include talking her out of the marriage if the groom she picked sucked. And so maybe I was too flippant with approaching this topic due to our history, and was unempathetic in underestimating how much she was already invested in the name she chose for her future daughter. I admit I'm a bit frustrated that Stephanie still doesn't understand what I was trying to tell her. She still thinks I was making some kind of weird, cruel joke accusing her of picking the name as a joke. But I have messaged her a sincere apology that she accepted, and I will never speak of this again, to Stephanie or baby Karen. I'll also stand up for Stephanie if her other friends shit talk the name around me again. If they're not willing to voice their thoughts to Stephanie directly, they need to not say the kinds of things they were saying behind her back. Edit 2. One more thing. I definitely was not trying to tell Stephanie to not name her daughter Karen. I just wanted her to make the decision either way knowing the connotations, since I'd want someone to do the same for me if I picked a baby name with cultural baggage I wasn't aware of. I realize now I handled it poorly and was hurtful to Stephanie in the process, but I just wanted to be clear that I wasn't actively trying to talk her out of the name. I just didn't want her to be blindsided if it came up later. Additional context from OP's comments. Stephanie and her husband have a deal on baby names where she picks girl baby names, he picks boy baby names, and they each have unlimited veto power for the other person's choices. He's on board with Karen Efek. We're all the same age, late 20s, but neither of them spends time online or is even particularly tech savvy. Update 1. My post last summer wasn't the most exciting or dramatic on AITA, but I wanted to provide an update if anyone is interested. Baby Karen was born healthy and happy back in October. She's an absolute sweetheart of a baby, and I'm totally in love with her. Between March and May I didn't get to see her at all in person, but I was doing regular FaceTime, house party calls with Stephanie and Karen, and over the last few weeks, I've been going over to Stephanie's house to sit in her backyard and chat with Stephanie coo at Karen from a lengthy distance. I have two reasons for updating. First, I've realized since Karen's birth that her name has taken on new meaning to me. When I'm with her, Karen just means her, and I don't think about the other connotations. In other words, you guys were right. That said though, my second reason for updating is that Stephanie got back into her years unused Facebook at the beginning of the pandemic to keep in touch with people. She's been on it pretty regularly lately for the first time in years. Historically, she's not really been into social media. Most people in our area, social circle have been posting really heavily about BLM and the protests happening right now, as well as racial justice issues more generally. As a result, Stephanie has now come into contact with a deluge of Karen memes for the first time, and found them confusing and horrifying, especially the use of Karen as shorthand for a racist. I basically just declined to talk about it with Stephanie, because it went so poorly last time, but both my mother and her mother have hounded me about it because it's upsetting to Stephanie, and said things like, "Is this what you were talking about before? Why didn't you say so? Why didn't you explain it better? You should have told Stephanie." And Jesus wept. You really can't win. Thanks again for all your feedback on my last post. It was very helpful in giving me some zen about the situation. Edit. Wow, I've been super overwhelmed by the flood of very kind, heartfelt PMs, and just one or two not so kind ones, as well as the comments on my other post. Thank you everyone. It continually amazes me how many nice and empathetic people frequent a sub devoted to assholes. Additional comments from OP for context. In response to someone criticizing Stephanie, to be fair, Stephanie has been cool about it. First, she saw a bunch of posts about the Central Park Karen, when that white lady was harassing the black birdwatcher in the park, and came to me asking me to explain why everyone was calling the woman Karen when her name was Amy. Since she's gotten back on Facebook, she often asks me to be like her internet culture interpreter. I immediately told her, sorry, I'm not having a conversation with you about this, because we had a major conflict over it last year, and I'm not getting into it with you. I think that was the first time she started to understand what I'd been telling her last year. And in fairness to her, she didn't bring it up with me again after that. As for my mom and aunt, they're kind of generally ridiculous. They tend to be extremely reactive to whatever is going on precisely at the moment, and if someone in the family is upset, they get over-involved trying to fix it. Stephanie has been venting to her mom about this, not about me, just how upsetting the memes are. And she and my mom have just been doing their normal thing of blowing it out of proportion, and now making it my fault somehow. I love my mom and aunt dearly, but they're not to be reasoned with. In response to another criticism of Stephanie, honestly, with my mom and aunt, it's easier to just wait for them to move on to the next shiny thing. I don't blame Stephanie at all. She's just upset and confused, but hasn't made it my problem at all. My aunt and mom just have a flair for the dramatic. In response to someone saying they still thought OP was TA because they only brought up concerns with the name for selfish reasons. I probably wasn't clear about this in my original post, and I think it's probably because that's the part I cut down when I went way over the word limit on that first post, but when I described feeling weird and uncomfortable over the couple of days I took to ruminate after Stephanie's announcement, the weirdness and discomfort was mostly a response to what happened with our friend group rather than just my own feelings about the name. I felt super uncomfortable being in the room while our friends shit-talked Stephanie's name choice after praising it to her face. I didn't have the presence of mind to call them out before the moment passed, and I sat with that guilt for a couple of days. I didn't want to tell Stephanie what they said, because it would be tattly of me, and I also didn't want to cause conflict within the friend group or upset Stephanie. So raising the topic on my own seemed like a good compromise at the time. I did wrestle internally with how to handle it, and clearly I missed the mark. In response to the comment, do you understand that there is a massive difference in being upset with your friends for their response, and approaching Stephanie because you say you want her to be fully informed of her name choice? These are two different things that you're conflating. No, to be clear, I didn't raise the conversation with Stephanie in lieu of scolding our friends. I brought it up because I thought they owed it to her to raise those points to her face if they were going to say them at all. Ultimately, I thought Stephanie was owed the knowledge of those connotations, whatever she chose to do with that knowledge. Also, I don't know how to explain the context of our relationship, but Stephanie and I have a lifetime of shared radical honesty with one another, from the inconsequential, telling each other when outfits are unflattering, to the difficult, when she gave me a come to Jesus talk years ago about how someone I considered a close friend was super shitty to me and that I should end the friendship. Based on our extreme closeness and shared history, this conversation felt like the right move at the time, even though it ultimately backfired. Update 2. Hi all, I've gotten a few PMs over the last couple years asking for updates, and since we just celebrated Karen's 3rd birthday, I wanted to circle back to anyone following this story. First of all, baby Karen, not so much a baby anymore, is doing amazingly on her developmental milestones. She's a very bright child, sharp as the sharpest tack, and extremely tuned into her environment. Some of what she says is already fully incomplete sentences, which just makes me want to cry when I hear it, because it seems like Stephanie was giving birth just yesterday. Karen loves books already, and will intently study the pictures in them for huge stretches of time and claim to be reading. And you would not believe the uncomfortably incisive questions she's already asking. I am fully convinced this child is going to grow up to be an actual genius. Regarding the name, unfortunately, when Karen started daycare earlier this year, she started getting grief for her name pretty quickly from the older kids. The daycare she attends mixes the ages together at a couple of different points throughout the day, and while there fortunately wasn't much direct bullying, 2 of the age 5s must have heard and internalized the derogatory connotations of the name Karen at home. As a result, they found her name absolutely hysterical, and they kind of spread the idea to the other kids that there was something funny wrong about her name. Karen was too little to understand what was happening, but found the other kids' behavior toward her generally upsetting. The daycare staff made every effort to shut it down, and let Stephanie and her husband know right away. After about a month of this, where the daycare wasn't having much success putting the kibosh on this behavior, and the kids weren't dropping it, Stephanie and her husband made the decision that Karen would be going by Carrie from now on, which was already an established nickname that a lot of family and friends were already using, and that Karen already recognized as referring to herself. Stephanie and I never really fully revisited what happened during her pregnancy, but when she was telling me about what was happening in daycare, she apologized to me. I immediately felt terrible and reassured her there was no reason to apologize. Emotions are complicated when you're pregnant, and that I thought having Karen go by Carrie was a great solution. Though changing what you're used to calling someone is fucking hard, I've found. And I'm still directly addressing her on manual mode, every single time. A lot of the responses I got to my last post were gleeful and leaned into the schadenfreude of the situation. And I have to say those responses really bummed me out. I would much rather live in a world where I was wrong about the impact Karen's name would have on her. I cannot emphasize enough what a sweet-dispositioned, smart, curious, loving little girl Carrie is, and how much she deserves every good thing in life. Also, a lot of people didn't like Stephanie in my last post, but I need you to understand that this is a tiny snapshot of a very emotionally high-strung time in her life, and overall, Stephanie is a wonderful lifelong friend. She has gotten me through so many personal crises over the years, and she will never fail to show up for the people she cares about. Being pregnant and having a strong emotional attachment to the name you've picked out for your daughter is completely understandable, and her pregnancy was pretty rough on her moods. She once wept uncontrollably at a cat food commercial when she was about 7 months pregnant. I also think my approach for trying to explain the name issue those years ago was very clumsy, and I could have done a better job of bringing it up. That said, with the distance of time, I am really glad I broached the topic. I feel like I owed Stephanie that information, and I can feel good about giving it to her. If I'd chosen not to bring it up at the time, I think I'd have a lot of regrets now. The only thing I'd change now, looking back, is that I would try to bring it up more gently somehow with Stephanie so I could have had the chance to explain. In summary, all is well. We've run into a little bump in the road with other kids' reactions to Carrie's name, but in some ways, it's better to get this out of the way now, when Carrie doesn't really understand what's happening, than have this happen in kindergarten or elementary school down the road, when full-on bullying could be a risk. She's adjusting really well to going by her nickname full-time, and Stephanie and her husband are planning on enrolling her with Carrie as her preferred name in all future schooling. And since schools around here go by preferred name rather than legal name in things like classroom roll calls, it's possible she can get through K-12 without it ever really being widely known among her peers that her legal name is Karen. And I really hope this common usage of the name Karen dies down in the next few years. Edit. Really disappointed to be getting hate messages directed at Carrie, wishing that terrible things befall her and calling her the C-word. Please remember she's an innocent child. Edit 2. Point of clarification. The boys at daycare apparently didn't know that Karen was a name. The way they'd heard it used at home made them think it was just a term used to insult people, and that it might be a bad word. That's why they found it so funny, because in their worldview, it was like meeting someone named Fartface, or Asshole. The daycare staff explained to them that Karen is a real name, and that lots of people are named Karen, and of course they tried their best to curtail the mockery, but nothing really helped until the name change and a little bit of time had passed. Things at the daycare are now back to normal, the other kids are calling her Carrie, and everyone has, fortunately, moved on. Edit 3. Please don't harass Redditors who gave a YTA judgment on my first post. They gave their honest judgment at the time in an online space specifically set up for the purpose. I didn't post on an advice sub, I posted on a judgment sub, and there's no reason to call people to the mat for judgments I asked for, made in good faith, from 3 years ago. A comment defending Stephanie in response to someone commenting that she's a bad friend to OP. Stephanie is genuinely a great friend and a good person. She once dropped everything and drove 300 miles because I had just been in a, relatively minor, car accident in a city I lived all alone in as a young adult. She once gifted me $1,500, no questions asked, and insisted I never even think about paying it back, when I needed to get out of a really bad cohabiting situation while broke. When we were teenagers and the cool boy she had a massive crush on made fun of me for something I was extremely sensitive about. Instead of keeping quiet, she blew her top, stuck up for me and told him off, then led me away to comfort me away from him. She is loyal and kind and has incredible character. This post is such a tiny snapshot of who she is as a person. When I raised my concerns, Stephanie was emotional, very pregnant and somewhat sleep deprived. Her pregnancy was rough on her body, and on top of hormones, I think she was just genuinely confused by what I was trying to tell her. Final update. For those of you who have contacted me asking for an update, I wanted to circle back and close the book on the baby Carrie chapter. As of last month, Carrie is now legally Caroline, last name, and she has even been issued a new birth certificate with her new legal name. The daycare bullying issues had already died down since Stephanie and her husband switched to calling her Carrie, but this legal name change now means that the Karen issue won't crop up again when she starts school. There were also some other minor incidents that pushed Stephanie and her husband to make that decision around a legal name change. They were getting to the point where, almost any time they were having to provide Karen's legal name to get a service, they were getting an immediate reaction, even from adults. It was usually just a meaningful look, but barbed comments were not unusual. The final straw was when they were at the airport getting ready to fly to visit Stephanie's in-laws with Carrie. The TSA agent at security made a snarky comment, and then later when they needed to ask the gate agent about their seats, the gate agent rudely laughed at seeing Carrie's ticket, then showed the gate agent standing next to her, who just shook her head and said, "Poor kid," to her co-worker while fully ignoring Stephanie and her husband. And they had this interaction in front of Carrie. Something about that day in the airport was a turning point for Stephanie and her husband, and they started the name change process as soon as they got home. It was much easier than they were expecting, and cost a grand total of $30. Carrie is a joyful, sociable little girl, and while it's impossible to know right now if these negative experiences caused any lasting damage, and I sincerely hope they did not, I'm happy to see that she continues to be a very outgoing, confident child. The conversation with Stephanie I mentioned in my October update was awkward and brief, but we've actually gotten back into it a few times since. Stephanie has apologized profusely for her initial reaction when we first talked. I've apologized for approaching things so poorly, and not telling her right away about what our friends were saying behind her back, and in those conversations, we mainly ended up focusing on the resulting spiraling of my mom and aunt and what a mess that turned into. Together we've started to unpack some of the intergenerational shit around our family issues. To provide some of that context, our maternal grandparents were a nightmare. Our grandfather was an authoritarian revivalist preacher who was physically abusive and referred to himself as the spiritual leader and ultimate authority of the family. Our grandmother was a manipulative narcissist, who psychologically tormented my mom and aunt for their entire childhoods. As a result, my mom and aunt's trauma bonded considerably during their childhood and grew into extremely anxious and reactive adults. Any whiff of conflict sends them into panic mode, and in our family, we have these well-worn grooves of behavioral habits with my mom and aunt overreacting to anything that feels like discord, and scrambling to clumsily smooth things over. As a result, Stephanie and I have both been working hard to build better boundaries with our mom's generation, and have agreed to be really cautious about what information we give them, especially anything that is highly emotional. I've been in therapy for a couple of years now, and Stephanie also started therapy late last year. We've been talking about the ways that my grandparents traumatizing our moms caused intergenerational issues that impacted us, and Stephanie is determined that the cycle ends with her, and that these issues will not go on to touch Carrie. Thank you everyone for your kind words, both here on my profile posts and on the Best of Updates reposts, which I've also been reading. I've gotten some incredibly thoughtful and kind messages, which have meant a lot to me, even if I haven't had the chance to respond to all of them. For those who may still want to be critical of Stephanie, I again want to emphasize how out of character her initial reaction was, and how much physical, hormonal, and emotional upheaval she was in at the time. These posts are a teeny tiny window into just one aspect of the dynamic, funny, kind, caring full human being that is my cousin and best friend. Stephanie has been my most loyal and trusted friend for pretty much my entire life, and she has fully earned some grace for reacting less than perfectly to my extremely clumsy approach when she was sleep deprived, hormonally wrecked and brain fogged. Stephanie has read these posts now as well, along with most of your comments, and, after I explained to her what Reddit is, they were helpful to both of us in our talks about our weird family dynamic. I can't imagine I'll have any more updates down the line, but thanks for following along the last few years.
Fiancé's family mocked me behind my back. Now I'm considering calling off the wedding. Need advice on how to handle the situation. Original post, June 29, 2024. 23 years old, am engaged to John, 24 years old. We have been together for 5 years. We want to get married in July 2025. I always thought that his family liked me because we get along well. He has 2 older brothers, 26 years old, 29 years old, both married. Honestly, I was very excited to have them all as my in-laws. They were always kind to me. Some kind of important information. About a year ago when I was scrolling on Instagram, I saw a profile that was kind of cringy but in a cute way. It was an older woman's profile who shared inspirational quotes. I remember one particular post and it was something along the lines of, "Only stupid people pretend to know everything. Don't pretend, just ask." Honestly, this quote changed me in a lot of ways. Before that, I was always worried that I might embarrass myself if I didn't know something, and after reading that quote I realized that if I always pretend that I know everything, then I'll miss out on actually getting to learn about things. So I decided to change my habits and start admitting that sometimes I genuinely don't know. Someone is talking about the war in Kosovo. Okay, sure, but first let me ask some questions so I can really understand what we're talking about. And I ask a lot of questions sometimes. I sometimes even open the Notes app and write in some questions that I later want to find answers to. These are my latest. 1. How does time work in the black hole? 2. Why do some snails have shells and others don't? 3. What food is okay for ducks? 4. How does the light bulb work, the old ones with gas inside them? 5. Does everyone see colors the same? And how can we know that? Sorry for the long introduction, but it was kind of necessary for understanding what kind of person I am. I know that sometimes I might come across as annoying. Now on to the problem. His parents hosted a small barbecue last weekend only for the family. So it was the mom, 54 years old, dad, 59 years old, brothers, 26 years old, 29 years old, and their wives, 27 years old, 27 years old. I was the last person who showed up because I had to work late. I entered the house, and when I was walking towards the back of the house into the backyard, I heard John's mom talking about me. To be honest, she wasn't talking about me, more like mocking me. I heard her say in a high-pitched voice, "How does the sun work? Where should I put the fork? Why does nobody like me? How do I wipe my ass?" I just stood there. I had this sinking feeling. I couldn't move, so I just stood there. And I heard them all laughing. One of the wives said, "I actually don't mind her always asking questions. I think it's cute." And it made me feel hopeful that they would say something like, "Yeah, sure, we're just playing. We love that." But none of them did. Instead, the mom replied, "It's not cute, she's just stupid." After that, they laughed again. I heard John laughing. My heart kind of broke at that moment because he didn't even say one positive thing. He didn't defend me, he just left. I quietly turned around and left the house. I texted John that I got sick and had to stay home. Now I'm wondering how I should approach this situation. We live together and I sleep in the guest bedroom for now, and I use the excuse that I don't want him to get sick from being around me. I can't ignore him forever, and I can't pretend to be sick anymore because it's been too long. I'm not sure how I should proceed. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. I'm considering talking to them about this, but I'm also worried that they won't be honest with me. I can't marry him if he really thinks I'm stupid. But I also can't marry into a family who thinks so little of me. But maybe it was a joke and I shouldn't take it so seriously. I'm so torn apart, and every day I convince myself a bit more that it's okay and sometimes we should all laugh about ourselves. Now I feel like I'm just going crazy. I would really appreciate some advice. Too long. Didn't read, overheard future mother-in-law calling me stupid and my fiancé laughed. Considering leaving him. I'm wondering if it might be just a joke and maybe a misunderstanding. Need advice on how to navigate the situation. Edit. There are many comments saying that they cannot stand people like me. I agree that sometimes I can be a bit too much with the questions, but with that being said, I still think I'm within reason. I don't do it around people I just met. I rarely do it at parties or other gatherings. I usually do it with people who are close to me, who I think wouldn't judge me, or with people who specifically have knowledge about something and are willing to share it. If I'm a part of a conversation, I'm not rude and I'm not interrupting. I usually just ask one or two questions. If a discussion is about climate change, I'm not asking about monkeys, if you know what I'm saying. I'm also not a complete dumbass. I don't ask questions that generally would be considered dumb to other people. Those I just write in the notes and check answers later on the internet. I'm capable of reading, so I make good use of it. But after all, I still do ask questions a lot. Highlight comment and some replies. Commenter, they were laughing at you behind your back. If he says anything along the lines of, "That is how they are, get over it, it is not a big deal, you are too sensitive." Anything that excuses their behavior, then he is really asking you to accept it. He is asking you to give your permission for it to continue, and your silence is your permission for it to continue. If they can't say it to your face, that tells you a world of information about the kind of people they are. If you want to see how things really are, confront them about this and see what happens. Their reactions will tell you everything you need to know about all of them and will be helpful in making such a big decision. It will show you how they deal with conflict, which will be a good indication of what you will be getting yourself into should you marry this guy. They will be a part of your life for as long as they are alive. You need to know if you can tolerate being a part of his family. Replier 1, OP. If he says they were just kidding, respond with, well, I'm not spending the rest of my life being the butt of the joke, and give him the ring back. This isn't going to get better if he does anything other than immediately apologize for everything, including not defending you. Replier 2, this is brutally sad to discover now, but it is crucial to either set boundaries or leave the relationship. You deserve respect and kindness from your in-laws, and it is 100% non-negotiable from your spouse. For the entire side of the family to be involved in that nastiness is shocking. It's really disturbing and gross that they would act like that. Replier 3. This isn't about boundaries. His entire family thinks of her as stupid. Her confronting him and them won't change that. Her husband also thinks it's okay to mock her. That's just terrible. They should be embarrassed. To be such nasty people. It is disturbing and gross. She should have nothing to do with any of them. OP. This isn't something you can fix. You just learnt that they are horrible people. That's not family. And never will be, no matter what you do. Replier 4. Exactly. They're actively making fun of her. She's been in their lives for 5 years and is about to officially marry. To hear them talk about someone they're supposed to love like that, honestly really upsets me. Her fiancé not only doesn't defend her, but he joins in on the laughing. So he agrees with what his mother is saying to some degree. I don't think I could marry someone who felt comfortable letting someone put me down like that. Replier 5. OP, your fiancé doesn't respect you. In fact, the only person who does at all is the one who said your asking questions is cute. I'm so sorry they're so toxic, and you only found out after hearing them mock you when they didn't realize you were there and could hear them. I wish I had known how toxic my wife's family is before we married. Toxic in-laws are the worst. Update post, July 2, 2024, 3 days later. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to the people who reached out to answer my questions about black holes, snails, ducks, light bulbs, and other topics. I would love to have you as my friends. For those who said I should just shut up, I don't really care if you find me annoying or hard to be around. I'm okay with that. I don't exist to please everyone. I'm just here for a good time, to have my own interests and to learn. I didn't expect my post to gain so much attention, but I'm so grateful for the advice. Most of you told me to break up with him and at the very least confront him, so that's what I decided to do. You gave me a push and confidence to do it. Before I did that, I texted the wife of John's brother, the one who said she liked me asking questions. I asked if we could meet up for coffee. She said sure. We met and I didn't see the point in pretending to her that I didn't hear their conversation. So after some small talk, I just said, I heard you all talking about me during the barbecue. She immediately got sad and said she felt embarrassed. She explained that it wasn't a joke, wasn't out of context, that it was just mean and hurtful. She said she's sorry for not defending me more, but I said that it's okay and I understand. I told her that I don't blame her for anything, and just wanted to make sure that I understood the situation and see it for what it really was. And it really was laughing at me behind my back. Just bullying. At this point I just had to confront John. In my last post, so many comments were saying that he would probably try gaslighting me. And you were right. We were having dinner together for the first time since the barbecue happened because before I tried my best to avoid him. Yes, I know, not very mature of me, but other than you guys, I don't really have a strong support system. My family and best friends are hundreds of kilometers away. I only have 2 good friends here. I was so stressed I thought I was going to pass out. My legs were shaking and I was terrified because I knew deep down that this is the moment when my 5-year relationship goes down the drain. I looked him in the eyes and asked, how does the sun work? He looked confused, so I followed with, where should I put my fork? Why does nobody like me? At this point, realization hit him. And he started nervously laughing. I said I was there and I heard them. After the initial shock passed, he got mad. He said it's rude to eavesdrop. I said it's rude to bully people. He tried telling me that it was just a joke, that I shouldn't be so uptight. That it really was funny. I said that I didn't find it funny and went to the guest room to calm down. He started panicking. He was asking me to please talk to him. He was much more apologetic and said that he would be 100% honest with me. I asked if his mother made similar comments before the barbecue. He said yes. I asked him if he ever defended me. He said he tries to. I don't know if I believe him. He told me he loves me and respects me. I don't know if I believe it either. I said that I love him too, but I need a break. He's all I've ever known. He was my first and only partner. I have no outside perspective of this. I have no experience. I need a moment to think. I will be going to my friend's house for a while to think everything through. The apartment has his name on the lease anyway. After I gathered some of my things and left, he kept texting me nonstop. He tried calling, but I didn't respond. I was very hurt because he tried to belittle my feelings and only later, when he realized that I might break up with him, started apologizing. The next day I decided to give him another chance to explain himself and I came back to the apartment. He seemed very sad and tired. He said that he told his mother that I overheard them. I said I don't care. It's his time to step up and show me that he cares. I'm not interested in an apology from his mother. I'm already done with her. I can't put up with this behavior and mocking me like we're in primary school. I saw a comment saying that probably her ego is hurting. I think it's true. She never got the chance or never had the desire to have an education. She is a very good homemaker, but outside of that, she doesn't have many interests of her own. If I'm asking her about making tomato soup, she will be talking for 30 minutes lecturing me about adding enough sugar, but not too much. She will lecture anyone who is willing to listen. But anytime someone is talking about something she's not familiar with, she gets defensive and tries to imply that nobody cares about that, and if it's not relevant to her, it shouldn't be discussed. Once again, he tried telling me that I should relax because it was only a joke, and at this point, I had enough. I took off my ring and told him that his behavior is a joke and I can't be the punchline. I told him that I wish him and his family the best and to look in the mirror to check if they really are as superior as they think they are. I said I'm going to be back with my friend soon to pick up the rest of my stuff and to not contact me again unless it's about moving my things out. And that's it, I'm done. Thank you all for the advice. Without you, I wouldn't have the confidence to leave this man. I know I deserve better. I can't be with someone who can't stand up for me, and I wouldn't be able to feel comfortable around his family, so I'm done with the relationship. I hope they will treat his next girlfriend better. Thank you again, Reddit, for the advice. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Keep on being curious. Not judgmental. OP. Same, I absolutely love that show. I watched it with my ex and it's funny that he didn't like Ted and thought that his character was not relatable and silly. To be honest, we all should have Ted's strength and positivity sometimes. Commenter 2. OP. Your ex-mother-in-law can still go and get an education. Many have and there is still time. That's no excuse for what she did and her saying that and acting like that shows how uneducated she is. OP. I think so too. I believe it's never too late to start learning something new and continue education. In my university, there was an old lady in her 70s who recently graduated, and everyone was just so proud of her. In my country, university is free, so the barrier to entry isn't as bad as in the US, for example. Editor's note, thanks to the person who found this comment with answers to many of OP's questions.
Am I the A for renting my house to a friend with poor financial habits? Now, she's offering to buy the house for a ridiculously low price, even just $1. Some backstory. I, 31, grew up pretty poor. I don't remember it well, but at one point my parents and I were only able to afford to eat beans and rice. My parents have since been able to pull out of poverty, and while they aren't rich, they are comfortable, and I have used a lot of what I experienced as a kid as motivation to be super careful with my money. I got a job in high school, worked odd jobs on the side, saved up every penny, rode my bike everywhere instead of driving and paying for gas, and by the time I moved out of my parents' place I had a little over $17K in my savings. I don't have that much tucked away anymore, but I have investments and emergency funds and take my family's finances incredibly seriously as I never want my children to experience what I did as a kid. Mine and my husband's financial choices afforded us the opportunity to purchase a home in the beginning of 2015, which we bought 50/50 with his mother. He paid his half up front. I made a large down payment and his mother covered the rest with an escrow agreement that I would pay off what she had purchased. I have since completely paid my half and the house is fully owned by myself and my husband. It's a 4-bedroom, 1 and a 1/2 bath, 2-story home with a finished basement, attached 2-car garage, on a double lot. We got the house for an absolute steal at only $118K, for sale by owners. Since purchasing we have installed a fence, updated the oven, washer and dryer, water heater, furnace, and paid for materials to have all the interior rooms repainted. The only updates it needs are purely cosmetic, as the exterior paint is an ugly brown-pink color, which we have started repainting and need to finish. The hardwood floors have some distortion due to it being a 100+-year-old house and us having dogs when we lived there, and the bathroom could use an update but structurally speaking doesn't need one. Needless to say, on a scale of 1-5 with 1 being tear down the house and start over, and 5 being it's ready to put on the market to sell for $300K today, the house is sitting at a 3.5 on 4. Backstory complete, let's get into what has become my biggest headache for the past 4 years. I have a friend, let's call her Carly, 27, who had incredibly similar experiences to me growing up, but struggles with finances and has never seemed to get the hang of keeping any sort of savings over $50 at a time. I'm not sure if it's a lack of self-control, or that she's simply too focused in the moment when she gets paid and doesn't think to look in the long term, but she consistently makes her lack of funds everyone else's problem. I don't blame her for having issues with money, as learning to create a budget isn't exactly taught in school, and it took me years to learn to find a healthy balance, and the freedom of being able to buy whatever you want with no restrictions is super tempting, but at some point you have to learn to take responsibility. During the course of our friendship, I have helped her build countless budgets based on my own. I made roughly the same amount of money as her, but each time they failed for whatever reason. We tried different ways to try to trick her brain into realizing that money sitting in her account wasn't to be touched, as everything needed to be used for bills, etc., and each time she would wind up still using every penny. It finally came to the point where I refused to help her with her budget anymore, because she never listens to my advice, and when I pointed out the easiest and fastest method to get her spending under control was to get a payee, she said she didn't need to be treated like a child who receives an allowance. Fair enough. I washed my hands of that topic. Carly moved out of her mom's house a little over 6 years ago and into a mutual friend's place. Let's call her Tia, 27. As far as I have been told by Tia, Carly paid little to nothing in rent, even though they both worked at the same company and made close to the same salary. Carly's living space was an absolute disaster. She moved into the basement, and it was lucky if there was even a walkway to get to the washer and dryer. She constantly asked me to come over to help her clean and organize her space, and because I'm a people pleaser, I would always agree. Each time we would make significant progress, but then by the next weekend when I would come over to help again, it was as if a tornado had gone through her space in the course of the week. I have no idea how she was able to fit so much stuff into that tiny space. She would never clean up on her own or make any sort of effort to put anything away, and would always wait for me to come over. And if anyone were to come down to watch us, it was always me cleaning or organizing while she sat back and dictated where everything went. Getting her to donate or throw anything away was like pulling teeth, as somehow even the smallest scrap of paper had some sort of sentimental value. After a little over a year of them living together, Tia couldn't handle it anymore and asked Carly to find some other living situation. She wasn't going to throw her onto the street, but she literally couldn't live with Carly any longer. There are a lot of other things that built up that caused this, but I won't go into that here. It just so happened that my husband and I had purchased a second home around this same time. What we had owed on the first was paid off, my husband had come into an inheritance, and we were able to look for our forever home that better fit our wants and needs. The best part for us is that the new house was literally a 5-minute drive from the old house. We had yet to decide whether we wanted to sell or rent our first house when Carly approached us with the offer of renting it from us. She and 2 other friends were looking to move in together, and with the house being as big as it was, there was plenty of space for all of them to have their own room and privacy. Since we hadn't yet decided if we wanted to sell, and there were 3 renters already lined up, we decided to use it as a means of passive income to invest in our future, and then down the road we would revisit whether or not we wanted to sell it or keep it as a rental. The red flag that I didn't initially pick up on was that Carly was already referring to the house as her house, to her 2 potential roommates even before moving in or signing a lease, so by the time it came to them all moving in, Carly had driven the other 2 girls to back out. The way I had written the original lease agreement was that the rent was flexible depending on how many tenants there were, so for the 3 of them they would have only been paying $750 total per month, and if only one person was renting it would be $400 per month. In this area you can expect to rent a bedroom for $400, so this was a crazy good deal as we really didn't need the money, and it was mainly to pay for insurance, power, heat and property taxes. In the 4 years that Carly has lived in that house, rent has gone up 4 times. Once to $500 a month because the power bill went up and we needed to adjust for that, the second time to $550 a month due to the same reason, the third time to $750 after she got a new job, and last year in October. More on that later. Also in the 4 years she has lived here, 2 separate opportunities for roommates have backed out. Each time because she was setting the rules and referring to the property as her house, despite having zero claim to it and the fact that each person would have their own lease agreement. When she first moved in she was working a minimum wage paying job and she was my friend, hence the low monthly rent, but a year and a half ago got a new job at a local university, 30-minute drive away, that pays very well and has great benefits, but somehow she manages to blow through her entire paycheck on I don't even know what. Also during the course of these past 4 years she wound up owing me $750 in back rent as she repeatedly was unable to pay me the full monthly amount due to repeated miscalculations in her budget and overspending on garbage, which she then stuffed into mine and my husband's property. My husband and I realized after a couple years of being landlords that we aren't cut out for it. We have too much on our own plates and had no time for upkeep, and Carly wasn't holding up her end of the rental agreement that she had signed. We talked about it and settled on the decision to sell, but we of course didn't want to throw Carly onto the street and informed her of our plan. She proposed to buy it from us and started going through the route of getting a loan. During this process she realized that the house wasn't what she wanted. She wanted land and the house itself was far too big for her. She told us that, and we understood, and I even helped drive her to meet with realtors so she could check out other options to buy houses elsewhere. But each one fell through as she discovered that she wasn't going to get a new homeowner's discount or bargain with any loans that she looked at, and all of the loans required at minimum of a 10% down payment, which she of course didn't have. This is where the entitlement starts. Carly wasn't going to be able to buy a home, at least not the home she wanted, and settled on buy our house. We had briefly talked at the very beginning of her tenancy that we may consider a rent-to-own situation, but no agreement had been made. No sale price had been decided, no appraisals or property inspections completed, nothing had been signed. It was simply a comment that we had made in passing and then chatted about later, again in passing. She took it as gospel truth and said that if she bought the house that she expected the 2.5 years of rent she had paid us to be computed off the total sale of the house. I reminded her that we never signed anything about a rent-to-own and informed her that wasn't how this was going to work. Her next tactic was to try to suggest that we quit claim deed the property to her, again without her paying us anything additional to the 2.5 years worth of rent she had already paid us. How this works is that whoever owns the property grants the title deed to whoever they're giving it to, and it's generally a lot faster and cheaper than going through the process of buying a house, but there is still generally something paid for the property when the title is transferred. At this point she'd only paid about $10K in rent, more than half of which went to paying for utilities that we covered instead of having her pay them, and property taxes, and she was making it sound as if she wasn't going to give us anything beyond that. I again told her that this would not be a viable option. The house was in great condition, and even with the exterior paint and repairs to the floors and bathroom was worth at least what we had paid for it. $118K. She tried to spin it that she was doing us a favor by taking it off our hands, as I had expressed to her that we were tired of being landlords and it was more effort than we had time for. Her last attempt at buying the house on her own was to offer me $1. That's right, a single dollar. I will admit, I don't know if this was a failed joke attempt on her part, but it certainly fell flat and I was so mad I was shaking, though I laughed it off. Side note, during the time she has lived in the house, my husband and I have some stuff stored in the garage, as Carly parked on the street due to convenience, and she suggested on multiple occasions that she start charging us rent for storing things in our own house when none of it was in her way whatsoever, and we had already made it clear that if she purchased the house that we would remove all of our property. At the end of 2022, Carly started dating Reggie, 28M. They were long distance and would take turns visiting each other, and Carly made the comment to Reggie that we were looking to sell the house, and we threw out a couple numbers, the very lowest being $100K, but said that we of course would have to have an appraisal and look at market value, etc. He offered to buy it from us and said that he would start the process in March-April of 2023. I was relieved, my husband was relieved, Carly was relieved, everything was looking great. Some information about Reggie at the time. He is a retired Marine. He gets a monthly check from the government for close to $2,000 on top of his well-paying job. I'm guessing based on what Carly told me, but at the time he made his offer he was probably making between $4,500 $5,000 a month. When March-April came around, Carly and Reggie informed us that he would not be able to afford paying both his rent where he lived and a monthly mortgage payment and wouldn't be able to start the purchase process then, but would start the purchase process in October instead when he planned to move in with Carly. Before Reggie moved in, an ex-friend offered to rent a room in the house from Carly and pay her despite subletting being clearly stated in the lease agreement as prohibited. Carly so generously offered to pay us some of the amount that she was paid. The agreement fell through and the friend did not stay in the room. I'm not exactly sure why he chose to do things the way he did, but Reggie didn't start the purchase process at all until after he had moved and quit his job, meaning the only source of income he had to show to a mortgage company was the monthly stipend from the government, which even with a veteran's loan doesn't work as proof of income. When he moved in, rent increased to $1,000 a month, which is still under value for the size of the home, and a brand new rental agreement was written and signed stating that if they had not started the buying process to purchase the house from us by mid-April of 2024 that we would not be renewing the lease, nor would we work with them on month-to-month rental options, as myself and my husband are completely and totally over this mess. We also stated in the rental agreement that we were not going to list the house for sale as a sign of good faith to allow Reggie and Carly first choice on the house to buy it. Here's a rapid-fire list of things that have happened since October. Reggie paid the $750 that Carly owed to me in back rent. Carly and Reggie informed us at some point either late November or early December that they would not be buying the house as the repairs required amounted to more than $50K. I don't know where they got this number, as I have budgeted on multiple occasions to redo the flooring and it would be less than $15K to redo the entire house, nor would repainting cost more than a few thousand, or the bathroom remodel, as they intended to do the work themselves. We repaired the major damage in the bathroom recently for less than $500. They could not acquire rental housing due to having 3 cats and will indeed be staying in the house. We informed them we are not renewing the lease and reiterated our reasoning. I made the mistake of telling Carly what we owed on our mortgage and they turned around and offered us $50K to buy the house from us, Less than 1/3 the market value of the house if we sold it as is. We politely declined and then promptly went home and screamed into pillows. They have repeatedly told Tia that they are desperate for money to the point of debating setting up a GoFundMe, all the while Carly has gotten 2 brand new tattoos in the past year and has an international trip she has paid for in full that she is going on at the end of March, and Reggie has still not acquired even a part-time job. We emergency installed a water heater that Reggie paid for that I will have fully paid back by the end of March. Carly quit her job and now the only income they will have after the end of this week is Reggie's military stipend. Carly nonchalantly stated that we would have to renegotiate rent for this month and next month. There will be no negotiations. She made a bad decision and will have to live with the consequences of her actions. The most recent thing she did was text me 2 days ago asking if she could pay me in food for this month's rent. Knowing her, the amount she will pay will amount to only a couple meals and maybe $75 in groceries instead of the roughly $500 that they will owe. I owe Reggie roughly $500 left to pay off the last bit of the water heater. I jokingly answered that the electricity and insurance companies don't accept food as payment, so neither can I. She then offered to pay me what it would cost to pay these expenses and then the rest she would pay in food. I have not responded. It's been a day and a half. They will pay me in cash and nothing else. I'm done. No discussion. My warning to all of you, don't mix business and friends without getting to know said friends very well first. If I had known what I would be walking into, I never would have allowed her to move it. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Why are you allowing her to dictate anything? Evict her. OP. I'd love to. But where we live requires 60 days notice and that gives them an in to stay past their lease. They conveniently dropped the news on me that she quit her job when it was too late for me to give the required time for written eviction notice. Comment 2. Have you been inside the house since these 2 freeloaders moved in? I am thinking that they may have destroyed some parts of the house, which is why they came up with the $50K in repairs. Let them know that either they get all their crap out or you will just put it out for the trash. If it is worth anything, you could sell it for some of the money that they owe you, but I would bet most of the stuff is just crap. If they don't move out when you say the contract is over, it is 100% time to evict them. But if that happens, check with a lawyer, and see if you can cut off all utilities, water, electricity, gas and any other utility. You want them out before they destroy the inside of the house. If they do, make sure to take pictures and put them on social media and let every one of your friends know exactly what she did. Make sure that no other friend is dumb enough to let them move in with them. OP, luckily I have been inside the house. I was there on Sunday, and was able to do a quick walkthrough and everything seems to be okay right now. But I'll keep that in mind for when we deliver the eviction letter update 1. I should clarify. The reason we let Carly move in the first place is because she made it sound like she literally had nowhere to go. She'd spun a tale that her home life with her mom was not safe. Untrue. She made it sound like Tia was literally kicking her out that day. Also untrue, and she panickedly hounded me relentlessly in person and over the phone until my husband and I made a super quick decision to let her rent from us. I've learned this is a method of manipulation. I've reached out to an attorney. We talked about everything that's happened. They read through the lease and gave us a few options. We wait until May 1st when Carly and Reggie are supposed to be out of the house. If they're not out, delivery intent to sell notice. That gives them 90 days to vacate the property after the lease is up. Not ideal. We deliver the intent to sell now. That means they have until mid-June to GTFO. Still not ideal, but better. If they're still in the house past the 90 days, we file an unlawful detainer and the cops forcibly kick them out. We can't evict because we don't have the grounds. Even with all of this, the courts just about everywhere are against landlords and in favor of tenants. The minute their rent is late, we then have grounds for eviction. That gives them 14 days to pay or GTFO. But if they pay, the eviction process ends. So still not ideal. They can't get squatters' rights because they haven't been here long enough. I'm going to be telling her mother everything she's done, because I'm pretty sure she has no idea. I'm also telling all our mutual friends. I've done a lot of self-reflection lately before writing this post and came to several conclusions. I know she's not my friend. I had a false idea that I was helping someone that I saw as a friend, and in the end I enabled her shitty behavior. I'm aware I'm a doormat. I know I don't know how to set boundaries. I spent a lot of time on the phone and in professional offices over the last few days. I'm on a waiting list to see a therapist and learn to set boundaries, because I don't ever want to teach my kids my bad behaviors and habits that got me into this mess. And for all of you who mentioned that it is a miracle my husband is still with me, he was with me along the whole process. I never did anything without his consent, since we own the house 50/50ths. I'm taking most of the blame because Carly was my friend. I apologized to him and we had a deep conversation about working on communication. He apologized for not seeing that my friend wasn't who she claimed to be and didn't warn me I was being manipulated. Update 2. This is hopefully the last update. Sorry it took so long to get back on here. They're out and have been since April 1st. And no, it wasn't a joke despite the date. Life's been insane and I've been so overwhelmed with this whole situation that it's been hard to get back on here and face it all again. They left the house a mess, but that's not surprising. They claimed they didn't have the time or money to finish even though there was a whole month left on their lease. Honestly, I'm happy that they're out, though I am pissed about the mess. I'd rather clean up a bit instead of fighting them in court to kick them out. I told her mom and showed her everything, and her mom was angry as well and told her off a couple times for one, leaving the house in the state they did, and two, treating me, and others, the way she has. I've also started therapy and am working on setting boundaries and getting over my people-pleasing. The last I spoke to Carly was yesterday because I learned from a friend that she joked about leaving the house a mess on purpose because she was mad at me. I confronted her and asked why, even if it was a joke, because even jokes have some basis in truth. She said that it was because emotions were running high and she was stressed at the end when they were getting ready to leave, that she was frustrated with how little I did with the house while she was there, despite me repairing everything that needed it ASAP, and she was mad my husband and I stored some of our things in the garage. I explained that 1, it's our house, we can do that, 2, there was plenty of space in the garage for her things as well, and 3, none of her vehicles would have fit in the garage anyway as they were all too long and none of them ran, so she couldn't have even gotten them into the garage. Carly also had to junk out 2 of the vehicles she left behind, even though she'd explained she had someone who could keep them on their property so she could work on them. I don't understand any of her logic. I'm done trying to figure it out. Last thing she said to me was that she was sorry, though I don't believe she genuinely is and is just saying it to make herself feel better. Thanks to everyone that's read and commented and given advice, it's been greatly appreciated. Sorry if it's a bit anticlimactic of an ending, but I'm relieved that it's done. Some good news is that we're working with a buyer now and are making steps towards selling for what the place is actually worth.
I have had enough of my stepdaughter, so I moved back to my parents with my son. I'm also 8W pregnant and I don't know what to do. Update. Hi everyone. I don't know if this is even ethical because it's about a minor. I will keep it anonymous and hope for the best. I am at the end of my tether here and I feel paralyzed and in desperate need of advice. I, female 38, met my husband, male 44, about 4 years ago. I'm 8 weeks pregnant, only husband and I know. I have a son, male 8 with my BF who passed away in a car accident before my son was born. My husband has a daughter, female 13, stepdaughter for stepdaughter, from a previous marriage. My stepdaughter lives with us every other week. When we got married, my ex-wife tried everything to get full custody of stepdaughter and failed. But it was made very clear to me, by stepdaughter, ex-wife and husband, that I am not her mother and am not allowed to participate in raising her. Stepdaughter basically ignored me and my son for weeks. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't hurting anyone directly. My son learned very early not to cross stepdaughter and kept to himself when she was around. I suspected the ex-wife behind stepdaughter's coldness towards me and thought this must be hard for stepdaughter with all these changes. I tried to befriend her over the years but she wasn't having it. It got worse when my ex-wife remarried and got pregnant with twins 2 years ago. She started ignoring stepdaughter, trying to get my husband to have her more, we happily obliged, and basically stopped being a mother to her. It didn't help either that the new husband didn't like stepdaughter and wasn't shy about not wanting to raise another man's daughter. I asked my husband if we could take stepdaughter full time and try to raise her because I saw that her mental health was deteriorating and that she needed stability. The ex-wife blatantly refused this suggestion so we continued with it every other week. The twins were born about a year ago and all went downhill from there. It seemed like the worse stepdaughter had it at her mom's, the more she hated me and my son. She would throw fits a couple of times every time she's with us. Break our stuff. Call me a bitch if I tried to tell her off. It's her house because her father bought it and we're just guests. She would yell at my son and she even hit him a couple of times telling him to keep to his room if he didn't like her treatment of him. When I told her not to put her hand on my son she told me, "What are you going to do about it?" My son grew fearful of her and would ask me to take him to Grandpa, late BF's father, when she's living with us. I talked to my husband about it. I told him stepdaughter needed professional help because she's not feeling well and she's making us miserable when she's around. So she started to go to therapy. 6 months now. Other than that my husband didn't know what to do either. If he tried to talk to her about being nice to us, she played innocent and told him she was playing around and hugged and kissed my son in front of him, and if he tried to be stern, she threw a tantrum and accused him of loving my son more than her. 3 months ago, my son's grandpa passed away. This hit my son and me very hard. My son was inconsolable for many weeks and couldn't really understand what it meant that he couldn't see Grandpa again. Grandpa was a carpenter. So was my late BF. So from a very young age my son loved hanging with him in the garage, working. Many times when he's there he comes home with something they made together. Butter knives, boxes, chessboards. And for my 38th birthday last summer I got a stool that my son designed himself and built with his grandpa and then painted. This was the last project they had together since Grandpa passed away a few weeks later, so the stool was priceless to us. We had it in the kitchen. The stepdaughter made a lot of negative remarks about the stool, how ugly and poorly made it was. She laughed at my son's poor taste and he was very distraught. This was the first time, however, that my husband got very angry at her and asked her to go to her room. She was so scared of his reaction that she went without any protest. This Christmas, my stepdaughter was supposed to be with her mother. On Christmas Eve, her mother dropped her off at our house very early in the morning. Her new husband had decided he didn't want her to go with them to his parents' house, where they usually spend Christmas. The stepdaughter was on the verge of tears, standing there listening to her mother making excuses to my husband and me. My husband hugged stepdaughter the whole time and I tried to fight away my tears. After her mom left, she went upstairs to her room to sleep. I also went to sleep since we don't usually wake up this early on holidays. When she saw me, she smirked and said she didn't want ugly furniture in her house. I pulled her away and told her to go to her room and tried to get the pieces of wood out of the fireplace. That was when she threw a scalding hot liquid in my face. It was hot cocoa. I yelled in pain and my son started panicking, so I ran to him to tell him that I was fine. The stepdaughter stood there laughing. I took my son upstairs and went back to her. I grabbed her hard in her arm and started pulling, pushing and dragging her up to her room and locked the door. Husband came home with my parents moments later. My mom took me to the emergency room and my son insisted on coming with me. I had second-degree burns on my cheek and neck. When I went home, my husband was so mad at me for assaulting stepdaughter by using force to get her to her room. He told me I should have had compassion, knowing how hurt she was by her mother's abandonment. I told him that I have had enough with this. I am living a nightmare 1 or 2 of my life. Having to go on eggshells in my own home whenever she's around. My son is a prisoner in his own room when she's living with us, too terrified to cross a boundary of hers. I told him that I didn't know how to handle this, and that it was a mistake from the beginning that I wasn't allowed to be a parental figure in her life with authority. He disagreed and told me that she has a kind heart and needed patience. But the thing is, I don't think she does. She targeted my son's handiwork, fully aware of its sentimental value. And my face, because she always hated the fact that my husband thinks I am beautiful and is open with complimenting my eyes and smile. I didn't stay there for Christmas. I took my son and parents and went to my parents' home where I live now. My husband is in panic mode. He's been texting and calling me all the time trying to get me to move back and work things out. Stepdaughter even texted apologizing, he probably made her. But I don't know what to do. I love him so much, but I'm ashamed to say that I hate that girl. My son starts hyperventilating of the thought of living with her again. And what about my unborn baby? I feel sick of the thought of having 1-2 custody, and being at the mercy of his half-sister when it's my husband's week. This thought makes me want to have an abortion. Please tell me if there's another solution to this hell I'm living. Update. Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed the holidays. I'm overwhelmed with the support I received from you. It helped a lot. I was literally losing my mind and wasn't sure if it was wise of me to take these drastic measures. I'm sorry I didn't make an update. I just didn't think I had anything to add, plus these last weeks have been so hard. But I came here now to tell you that I have moved on with my plans. It's just hard for me to talk about it since it was a planned pregnancy and both soon-to-be ex and I were longing for him/her. It was also hard to see my soon-to-be ex broken over my decision. He thinks I have acted so fast and can't fathom how I could just throw away our life together so fast. I think he still doesn't realize the severity of stepdaughter's actions. He even had her with him when he visited me at my parents' house the first time. He wanted us to have a sit-down. When I saw her in the car, I immediately told him to drive back. He was shocked, however, when he saw the dark scars on my face. They'll fade away with time, according to the doctor. I can't help but blame myself though. It's my fault that he thought this was a sudden decision. Had I been more honest and open with him, he would have known this was hurting me and my boy for months now, years really. This blame will lie with me and me alone. I thought by keeping my mouth shut I would minimize the damage. How wrong I was. My stepdaughter is living with her grandparents full-time now, and I think it's going to be a permanent thing. Her stepdad is adamant about not having her around his children. I think this is so messed up on so many levels, but I don't know if I have a say in this. It's her parents' call, even if I think it a grievous mistake. And I can't say that I care either. My boy is doing better. He loves living with my parents. He knows he will have to change schools and he's so scared about it, but he still thinks it's great that we moved. We started therapy. In one session, the therapist tried to explain to him how stepdaughter is not feeling well, and that she needed help. He got upset and told the therapist he didn't agree with her. He told her stepdaughter isn't the only one hurting. Many kids have bad parents and that he never knew his father and lost people he loved, but still he wasn't mean to his family. I cried for days after this. I am so sorry for what I put him through. I just want to spend the rest of my life making it up to him. My beautiful baby. With Omicron we're back to working from home, so it really doesn't matter that I live 5h from work. I work in a bank and I have talked to my boss. She will help me apply to a nearer office. I think I have covered everything. If anything major happens I will make a new update. Thank you again for the support. You helped more than you can imagine. Ciao edit. We have rebuilt the stool. We couldn't make it perfect and we had to patch it in many places and repaint it. But we love it. Some explanation from OP. I'm sorry I haven't been able to answer all your questions. I wrote my update very late and went to sleep. When I woke up it was locked. I will try to answer some here soon. To be ex. And his ex got divorced because the ex cheated on him. Her relationship with the affair partner didn't last. An affair partner left her when they got busted. This happened way before soon-to-be ex and I met. But the resentment came from soon-to-be ex. Moving on. From what I understood, soon-to-be ex and his ex were planning to give their relationship a second chance right before I met him, and he allegedly changed his mind. He blatantly denies this, but I've heard it from his ex and even stepdaughter. I know I was harsh on the stepdad, simply because I don't think him to be a good human being. His reluctance towards stepdaughter started way before the twins, and even before they got married he made it clear he would prefer it if stepdaughter didn't live with them. He even tried not to have her at their wedding. But after the incident, I don't blame him, even though I know he was happy he got a reason to get rid of her now. The problem is that stepdaughter loves him and the twins. She never speaks ill about him and always praises him. When she felt hurt by them, her hatred for me increased instead. I don't know how to explain it, but I kind of understood her. My soon-to-be ex isn't an evil man. He's probably a bad parent, but I don't think he is malicious. He knew his daughter was hurting and his solution was to spoil her when she stayed with us. It didn't help either that stepdaughter saw that he loved my son and treated him well. She always accused him of favoritism, and that drove him to spoil her even more to prove that she's his first priority. A vicious circle. On the morning of Christmas Eve, when my stepdaughter was dumped at our doorstep, soon-to-be ex cried after she went to bed and felt hopeless. I think that's why he couldn't understand the severity of what she did. She had bruises from where I dragged her to her room. Getting mad would probably have been my first reaction if I didn't know the full story and my child was bruised by an adult. I'm not trying to defend him. I'm trying to understand why he reacted like he did. About my stepdaughter moving with her grandparents. I think soon-to-be ex, even though he doesn't want to admit it, is repulsed by her run. It's so sickening, but I don't think he can help it. He feels terrible about the termination, and he's on sick leave now. This is so hard for me to write, but I think this is the brutal truth. I have promised myself not to get involved or utter an opinion about this matter to him or anybody else. She's not my responsibility, and maybe it's for the best because her grandparents are decent people. Even though I don't know, more feelings of abandonment is what stepdaughter needs. I don't think she's a psychopath. She has feelings, and a lot of them, especially rage. I don't think she's faking her rage. It feels very genuine. Many accused me of being a bad mom who only reacted when I personally was assaulted. I will have to live with this guilt and make it up to my boy for the rest of my life. These few weeks have been so dark. I keep thinking that she would have hurt my son with the hot drink instead of me, and I wouldn't have had the time to prevent it because it went so fast. I can't stop beating myself up about it, and I probably deserve it. My only defense is that her violence escalated very quickly and after the twins were born. Before that I deemed the situation to be manageable. I was wrong, and I'm so sorry I let it go for so long. I don't feel well. The termination was so hard on me because I loved and wanted the baby. This has nothing to do with my political views or beliefs. I don't live in the US or any other religious country. Where I live, abortion is a basic human right and not a political view. It was hard for me because I have longed for a baby. Please stop abusing me in the chat, calling me a murderer and whatnot, or at least do it here and not hide in the private chat. I'm going to live with my parents for a while now, even after we settle the economy and separate our finances. I feel like it's good for us. ATM. My son is so happy with them, even if he misses soon-to-be ex. He knows if he chose soon-to-be ex, it meant stepdaughter too, so he's trying to adjust to a life without his dad. We're getting a dog. He has always wanted one but couldn't because stepdaughter is allergic. I hope this answered all your questions, and thank you again for the support. Relevant comments. Commenter. OP mentioned soon-to-be ex feeling unwell right after mentioning pregnancy termination. My speculation would be just some negative feelings or depression about losing the prospect of losing an unborn child and correlating the cause to be his daughter, and particularly the burns she caused to OP, which he got to see the scars caused by it as a surprise when visiting her. I am assuming OP's injuries were bandaged up when she came home from the ER, and was confronted by OP and had no idea about the severity. Seems like things went from blissful ignorance to shocking realization of the current state of things around him. Some sort of a breakdown. From his life going from being married with child, stepchild, plus unborn child on the way. No more marriage. Stepchild is gone along with the wife, discovery that bio-daughter was violent towards wife and stepson, which resulted in wife getting second-degree burns and scars on neck, face, and that ended up being the direct cause of termination of unborn child. Pretty much went from thinking he's got a near-perfect life to where did everyone go in the span of a single day. Commenter. I'd like to hear more about why stepdaughter is with her grandparents rather than father. All we have is conjecture. Understandable that we won't get an answer if OP has completely broken it off with him. Which it sounds like she has and is certainly for the best.
My boyfriend thinks I should put up with his son's mistreatment of me because he's autistic. Am I the asshole for being ready to end the relationship? Update. I took my baby and left last night. I'm hiring a lawyer to seek sole custody. Thank you for all the advice and kind words. His son is 18 but functions at a 12-13-year-old level. He says he's high functioning but I don't think he is. My boyfriend's parents raised his son and were and still are very permissive with him. He sleeps all day and gets taken out for dinner literally every day, has zero responsibilities and refuses to get a job. I know there's places that hire disabled people but he's flat out said he's not going to work. He treats his grandmother like shit and calls her horrible names such as bitch and whore. He still gets whatever he wants just handed to him. I can't stand him. My boyfriend and I have a 5-month-old son together and when he was a newborn, my PPD was so bad I was hospitalized for it. His son thinks I abandoned my son because I didn't want to take care of him and there's no convincing him otherwise. This has resulted in him screaming at me that he hates me and wants me to leave. This isn't the first time this has happened either. I've asked my boyfriend to talk to him and he says he didn't raise him and nothing would change even if he did. Now he's saying that if I can't accept his son then we can't be together. It's not about me not accepting him. I've known since the beginning of our relationship, almost 3 years, that his son is autistic and I loved him and felt maternal towards him. His own mother basically abandoned him so I felt bad for him but now I don't exactly like him since he's spoiled and entitled. I accept him but I didn't sign up to be mistreated and disrespected and be told to deal with it or leave. My boyfriend takes it like I can't accept his kids but that's not it. Honestly I'm ready to end things. The rest of his family sweeps it under the rug too. They said they're trying to teach him about PPD but it's not working so far. I know he's jealous because he sees his dad engage with our son like he didn't with him but I'm not gonna put up with him treating me like shit because he's projecting his anger at his mom and dad onto me. I feel that my boyfriend doesn't love or respect me by telling me to deal with it. I worry that he's going to do this to someone in public and they'll hurt him. I worry that he's going to physically attack me one day and I'm tired of not being able to take care of my son without him staring me down and he brings my son to everyone but me. I'm tired of everyone excusing it as his autism. Autistic people